do it every time. I do it every time. I'm supposed to just let the thing go. I'm supposed to have it done when I go back. There we are. There we are.
Mr. StreamYard Master can't figure this out. Come on, Paul.
I'm professional. I'm a professional here.
Are you though?
Everything I do for a reason. So you might not know what that reason is. It may not seem logical, but there's a reason behind it. Anyway, welcome everybody to PLD Projects, my little home on the interweb. I'm lucky to be speaking with some lovely people here, Action Army Generals. This is a great time for us in the Action Army. It's Halloween time. And when Halloween comes around, what else comes around but horror? We love talking horror films. All of us, including Jerry. Jerry loves horror. It's his favorite genre in the history of genres. He said it's Star Wars and horror neck and neck. We'll see what happens on this list here.
Star Wars. It's just horror.
It's just horror. All right. Well, I'll introduce our esteemed panel before we get into the topics. Let's see everybody in the chat there. Star Drew, thanks for coming. Danny Carvalho, always good to see you. Brandy, of course, love to see Brandy in the chat there. There. Got Party Jay. Yes. No, Jerry loves horror. That's what we're trying to tell you.
It's his favorite.
And of course, Malcolm. Always good to see Malcolm as well. To see everybody in there. I can actually, you know what? Something else I'm not professional on. I got to open up my Streamlabs in case you actually want to Streamlabs me, because you never know when that's going to happen.
Hey, Starju said hi to me.
Did he? Just for Robert? Oh, look at that. Hey, Robert.
Hi, Starju.
And that's a question I'll have her answer right now. I am PLD. Next to me is my lovely Call to Action host, who I was just on screen with about half an hour ago now. Kelsey, how are you doing now? I mean, I already asked you how you're doing tonight. How are you doing now?
I'm doing pretty good. I got bored with my hair, so I just stripped it out. I got some bleach. I just did a real quick dye job, and here I am, ready to be.
Record time.
Record.
I don't know how you do it. You're just a magical creature.
I'm amazing. It's
almost like you went
right off.
Secrets.
Well, next to Kelsey, we got another Action Army General. They're all Action Army Generals at this point, but you know them, you love them. Call sign Jerry. I won't say hashtag Ben's boy because I don't want to embarrass you.
You just did it.
Oh, I just said it. Oh, I did.
Thank you.
I just said it. Sorry. I won't though. How you doing, Jerry? It's good to see you.
I am doing good. I'm ready to talk horror. I got my favorite horror things. We got Jar Jar Binks. We got Ahsoka Tano in the first movie. All the horror icons.
All of the horror icons. You're right. That's got.
Sounds like you know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I'm now a newcomer to the Action Army, a general speaking. He seems like he said before he's a little hesitant. He's not a big horror guy. Maybe we'll find out. Austin, call sign Caddyshack. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm lovely. I'm ready to rank things that I know very little about.
Well, that's what we do best. We talk about things we don't know anything about. That's all right. Noah De Palma. Nice to see you in there. First time in the chat. That's great. Good to see you here. Thank you so much for visiting. Brandon Buck, my friend, you have been storming the Schmodown community recently with your reactions with Quiz Show, with Mount Schmodown. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. It was a interesting day for me with my Mount Schmodown show. We did a episode with Sam Witwer today, which I had a blast doing that one.
That's cool.
That's a fantastic poll for a guest there.
Yeah.
First of all, he wasn't on. We just discussed Sam Witwer.
Oh, maybe someday. Yeah. If you just say it in the right way, people will look at it and go for it. So why not?
Because I said something else that someone thought I was insinuating something.
About you're making the prediction? Yeah. You made a prediction about the wild card match or the wild berries.
Yeah. Okay, all we did is we said it would be cool if we had a wild berry civil war, and the way I phrased the tweet, apparently someone thought that I was inferring that we were the first ones to make it. I'm like, I know we're not. It's been 9 months. A bunch of people have made that. I'm just saying that we made it a couple weeks ago, and I just thought it was a cool coincidence.
All right. Well, last but certainly not least in this panel, probably the guy who actually probably even knows horror better than I do, even, I got to say. We were looking at some horror lists before, and you just naming out things. I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, but he has multiple times and can tell me all the details about it. So I'm glad he's here because it'll definitely help me limp this along as best we can. Robert Adams for Cine Fanatics, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. Here's the thing: like typically, running a movie YouTube channel, I would love to be able to talk horror movies. Unfortunately, we're probably not going to be able to put out a video this year, so I'm just eager to talk about a horror movie at all, anywhere. So yeah, happy to be here.
All right. I'm happy to have you. Well, if you saw my show a little while ago, last week, I believe it was, we did this before, a tier maker list, and we ranked wrestlers. That took a long time because we had 111 wrestlers that we ranked. It was a little tough at the end there. We had like 5 hours later. We're like, oh, wow. So we're going to do a tier list again. We're going to try to cut it down a little bit so we can make it a little more timely. We are going to be doing horror franchises. It's a great tier making list. Called tiermaker.com, and they have all these pre-made lists. They give you pictures, you can screen share them, you throw them up there, you actually get to rank them in S tier, A tier, B tier, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We went and looked for horror. We tried to figure out what we were doing before show. We wanted to do horror franchises. We saw a horror franchise one that had like literally it seemed like 200 different franchises to rank, and that was a little overwhelming, especially with our guests who are less well versed in horror. Robert seemed to know every single one of them.
Pretty sure that list would have been Paul and Robert talking for 5 hours.
And then we would have been...
It would have been, yes.
And even I would have been like, Robert, this was all you. So we decided to go for something else. We found a list that we're going to adapt and use. They call it the Horror Icons tier list. And all it was a bunch of different horror icons, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, all that stuff. We're going to use that list and rank the 4 horror franchises that these characters come from. So don't be confused. Don't be confused. It's okay. It says one thing, we're doing another, because I make my own goddamn rules. That's how
we're rebels here.
We are rebels here. Rebel Nation, that's right.
Rebels without a cause.
Rebel Alliance, right, Jerry? Rebel Alliance.
Oh, yeah, Rebel Alliance. I know that.
Nope, I'm not part of that.
You got your Star Wars in my horror movies.
They could always make an adaptation of Death Troopers or Red Harvest.
That's the thing. Like, here's I am down for like an actual like Star Wars horror, kind of like with New Mutants, how they kind of took the X-Men franchise and added like horror elements to it. I want to see a Star Wars where they add horror movie elements to Star Wars. That would be fantastic.
Those are books that are horror books that's Death Troopers and Red Harvest. It's called.
If they do it, I want them to do just a character we know nothing about. I've seen sometimes, let's get a Darth Vader horror movie. I'm like, I don't want to see that. I want to see something else that we haven't seen yet.
Although you could argue that the little scene from Rogue One was kind of like a horror type scene with Darth Vader the whole way.
The only problem with that is after you hear Anakin going, I hate sand, it's coarse and it's rough and it gets it. There's nothing about that dude that's gonna ever scare me. So
Are you an idiot? Okay, I'm just gonna put that out. Okay, you see Vader come at you with a lightsaber, and you're not gonna get scared. Start running.
Absolutely, but I mean, the same could be argued for like Mace Windu with the lightsaber, or Luke Skywalker with the lightsaber, or Yoda with the lightsaber. Anyone with a lightsaber is gonna scare the crap out of me. But we're here to talk about horror movies, not Star Wars.
That's true. Who let Jerry on, Liam? I let Jerry on, Sunshine. You're welcome to come on if you want, if you can face us. But
also the link is in the chat. So
Blame PLD.
Blame PLD. You know what? I'm not sure. I doubt because he doesn't do many. He's only done single horror films, so probably not any of these franchises, unless Creepshow is in there. He is in Creepshow.
Creepshow is. Well, I don't think it's in this list. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was in the other one. So that would have been S tier, obviously, because Ed Harris is in it. But either way, let's just get this going. Here we go. Here.
Not the strongest Creepshow story either.
No, it's not. I actually will admit that. Honestly, I can admit when they're like that. I gotta be honest with you that that's not the great. It does have the great Ed Harris dancing gift though. That's out there.
No, absolutely.
So that is worth the price of admission alone. Here is our list. We excluded these two at the bottom because they basically were, even though they're icons, they were part of franchises already. The Bride of Frankenstein has Frankenstein, and of course Chucky's girlfriend has Chucky.
Tiffany.
Chucky, Trey Tiffany as Chucky already. So we're just going to do that as it is. And we have the S tier, the A tier through F tier. And we're going to have 5 per row. We're going to see which horror franchise comes out first here. And I'm actually, more I think about it, really excited to do this because of the diversity of our crew as far as horror goes. We have like a horror expert as far as Robert Adams goes, a horror very strong aficionado like myself, and I believe Kelsey is also a pretty strong horror aficionado. You got Buck. I'm not sure if Buck is on horror.
So let's say Robert's here, you're here, Kelsey's here. I'm like here, so I'm not at the like. I know some of these, but I don't know all of them.
Let's look, you're like a mid tier, and then you got maybe Jerry and Austin towards the bottom a little bit.
I'd probably say I'm a C, like high D tier. High D tier.
So we're ranking ourselves now. That's what we're doing. So
Robert, when it comes to horror, but we all know Jerry's like 6 feet under.
If I'm on this tier, I am not familiar with this character tier. That's where I'm at.
Well, I think it comes down to like, have you seen the movies that these characters are in?
Right. I've seen some of them.
Okay.
Well, then you're good.
I'm trying to remember. I've seen all of them.
Okay. And Kelsey's, I had to squeeze my screen a little bit. If other guests do show up, if you just let me know or keep an eye out for other guests as well, let me know. Yeah. Bring other people in. We have a few other people who might pop in, might not. They got the link. They're trying to work things out. We'll have to see. Okay. Thank you so much, Kelsey. Always my good engineers are on my shows. You're such a good engineer. You really work hard. It's amazing.
I like to help.
All right. Well, further ado, let's just start right away. The first one we got here is Carrie. Okay, here we go. Here, I'm just going to throw it right here for now. Carrie is a horror. And it's hard to have her as a franchise because she doesn't have her franchise. Basically consists of the original movie and then a couple of remakes.
There's been one made for TV remake with Angela Bettis as Carrie, and then there was the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz. There was also the Rage Carrie 2, but did not actually involve Carrie herself,
which is weird. So it's kind of funny. This is where using this tier list is a little strange because, quite frankly, again, it's not. I would rank Carrie as a very higher character than I would rank her franchise, for example. Mm-hmm. Her franchise is pretty shite overall.
So the question with this, are you wanting to rank the franchise of that character as a whole, or are you wanting to rank like how important is this one particular character in the realm of horror movies? For example, we're all going to agree that, like, say, Freddy Krueger is going to rank very high because his franchise is strong and he's a very well-known horror icon.
So you want to add two? You want to add two qualifiers? What you're saying? Perhaps
potentially, or at least narrow it down to what exactly are we ranking off of?
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we rank? I kind of like the idea of trying to make it. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but because we have not 111, that we can go through it. I don't want to exclude people if we don't have to. So why don't we say this? We'll say we're going to try to weigh them both equally as far as the franchise they're in and the horror icon they are.
Okay. Sounds good. Here's another question. You see, you got Dracula, the Mummy, a couple other people on here. How do you rank them based on where they're at? Because there's Draculas, the old ones, and then the new Draculas.
That's a whole franchise. You can do the whole thing. You can talk about everything that was in that franchise if you'd like.
I think he's meaning like when you see Dracula, are we only like the image here is for Bela Lugosi's Dracula? Are we only focusing on Bela Lugosi's franchise as Dracula, or do we also include, like, say, Gary Oldman?
I say you go all out. I say you go all of the above. Okay, because like that's the character itself. We don't know because I'd rather talk about those ones as well rather than just limit ourselves to the things. In my head, does that ever sound good to everybody?
Oh, yeah.
It works for me.
Okay. Should have worked some of this out before, but we kind of had this last minute kind of thing going up. All right, so Carrie then as a franchise and as a character. Now, what I was saying before, like I said, was the character is higher for me than the franchise, because the franchise is basically one movie, and the others are kind of like passable, not really great. But her character itself is strong. The original Carrie character is strong. I mean, my initial gut instinct right now, it's easy to do this because she can move down, would be to put her in like a B tier. I think we should go Robert. I'll defer to Robert first, and then we can talk about everybody else, whatever everybody else says after that.
I would agree, but I mean, just keeping her there at the mid-level because she's the first person right off the bat. We have no idea where any of these other characters or franchises are gonna lie. It's probably best just to keep her there, and very likely she's probably going to move as we add more and more franchises and characters to this tier list.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
So is this just going to include the original, or are we not going to include the Chloe Grace?
So we're including everything, but we're including everything, and then also talk about the character as a whole as well. So you're kind of weighing both out in a way. Okay. So what do you guys have? Anything else anyone wants to say about Carrie?
I could just say from like the female perspective, Carrie's kind of an important character for me, in the horror universe. As a character, I'd rank her A or B, but her franchise isn't great. So I would put that almost C or D. So I think B is probably a pretty safe place to put her for right now.
Yeah, we'll put B, and then we can move her down if we have to. Does that sound right, Jerry? Jerry or Austin, anything you want to add to that?
One thing I'd add is I don't know how many movies Carrie's had, but I know her as a character, which is surprising because I don't know the face, but I know the name. I know she's had influence.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
She is a very influential character.
She's had three major movies and one sequel that didn't actually involve Carrie White, just by name only.
Right. More
I mean,
inspired
I personally would put her at C tier, but that's just because I know eventually she's gonna get moved down, so might as well just put her there.
I found in the tier making list that you start higher and you can push her down because it makes it easier than pushing them up. I feel in a way, so I think we'll start with B. If that's okay with everybody else.
I'm okay with that because I think she will get pushed down to C, but if we put her at C, somehow she might get pushed down to D, and I don't think that's right. So
okay, Chris Adams says that everyone attach one to number for the franchise and attach one to number. Chris, I was told there would be no math, and I don't do math in this channel.
What is this thing with numbers? Are they sexy numbers though?
Wait, those are very sexy.
Yeah, are they sexy numbers though?
They're not unattractive numbers.
I would just say this is PLD projects where we're ranking these. This is not Good Mythical Morning, so
good call. And thank you, Ferris. Every list we always do sucks. That's the idea of list making, pretty much. If anybody's happy, if everybody's happy, nobody did their job right, pretty much.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Ferris. You can come in 4 hours and reset everything.
That's true. By the way, Ferris is going to come in at the end of this all and change everything around because that's what we did in the wrestling one. He made some good arguments. I was like, yeah, you're right. We should do that. So, all right, that's moving on. Here's one who doesn't really have a franchise at all. This is actually one we are just talking about just the character itself. So it kind of makes it kind of a weird one to go with. But Kathy Bates from Misery.
Annie Wilkes.
Yeah.
Annie Wilkes. I love this character
a
lot.
Too.
Yeah.
So much.
It's one solid film, and that's it's almost like unfair though, right? It's almost unfair though because a lot of films are gonna have these shitty sequels. They're gonna have like the Carrie 2s in there and everything else. Misery never had a chance to make it shitty and make a shitty sequel,
which could be seen as a good and a bad thing.
It's good but unfair. So I can't rank her as an S tier or A tier because of that, because it's only been one iconic movie. But the character is very well known.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I got so scared the first time I saw it. I was like, I can't sleep.
The hobbling scene alone is just very cringeworthy, especially if you have watched today's Saturday. So if you watched the Dallas Cowboys game this past Sunday, that hobbling scene is very, very realistic for you as far as the Cowboys starting quarterback Dak Prescott goes. So
your ankle is not supposed to do that.
No.
I did make Ben and Drew watch that on the Action Guys. It was not fun, but it was.
Dude, I watched that clip like 20 times. I was like, ooh.
Why?
Yeah, I'm like that too, that kind of thing. I'll watch it on repeat and make myself uncomfortable for a good 4 or 5 minutes. That sounds like on brand for me.
Like, I literally paused it when like his foot goes like 90. I was like,
nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right.
And just to interject something, I have no idea who this character is.
You never heard of Misery?
Misery.
Never even heard of the movie.
Wow.
Let me tell you, you should be more afraid of her than anybody else on this list.
Really?
Almost, yeah. Because out of real quick, looking at who's down there, she's one of the quickly scanning. She's one of the few characters that's on this list that could actually be
happen.
real. Yeah.
Which is very scary.
You've got her, Norman Bates, and Hannibal Lecter, and that's about it.
Yeah, everyone else.
I think that's the only characters that go. Maybe Leatherface. Maybe.
Yeah, I can see that.
Myers.
Technically, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on a true story, so
Yeah.
And I will say real quick,
Technically.
it's a rare Oscar-winning performance for a horror movie. She actually won an Oscar for this role, so that's something to be said about it.
To me, I think she is a solid B tier that wouldn't move down. I don't necessarily put her up in the S and the A just because it's the lack of franchise, really. But I could see her as staying in B, if that makes sense.
I even put her above Carrie as well myself.
Yeah, I do too.
What are we ranking like Stephen King novels now? I
mean, anyway.
a whole show on that. I'm a big Stephen King fan.
That would be a good tier list to do.
I would love to do that one.
Maybe I'll do that next week. Maybe I'll keep in the horror vein. I'll do that next week. Maybe I'll have to say. But for right now,
Pennywise is on this list too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Kathy Bates over, Annie Wilkes over Carrie. You think?
I would probably put Annie under Carrie.
Really?
Because Carrie is a more iconic character. Like, for example, the people on this particular panel here, most people know Carrie more than they know. And again, y'all didn't know that her name was Annie Wilkes. Y'all, if anyone recognized her, as like, oh, it's Misery.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't disagree.
That argument makes sense for me. That makes a good argument, I think. Kelsey, and I'm sorry, Kelsey. I think we're going to overrule you on that one.
That's fine.
Okay.
I understand the argument.
All right. And all right, Robert, what do we think?
What is this one?
Phantom of the Opera, which that's a terrible picture. Why do they only have like half his face? This isn't like Harvey Dent Two-Face, which that is actually what Two-Face was originally modeled after, was the Phantom.
The original.
Here's the thing, like, again, going back to the panel here, are we going to include the fact that the original story, The Phantom of the Opera, was just a flat-out story, and it got adapted by Andrew Lloyd Webber into the musical that we're all familiar with? Mm-hmm. So do we want to include, when talking about Phantom of the Opera, do we want to talk about the musical
I think so.
movie that we have?
The musical film, yes. Not we can't.
Only because it's Jerry B. Only because it's Jerry B.
Jerry B. That's true. I would include the musical movie, but not the musical Broadway channel. Even though I know they're the same music, but it's almost the same show with a couple of changes, which I'm not a big fan of. Yeah, me either, to be honest with you. Yeah. But I would say the Phantom is one of those iconic characters, definitively much more than any of the franchise would be. He's kind of like a Carrie in a way too. He's more important than the actual story of the film. I don't recognize this. I know a lot of people know the story, but they've heard of the Phantom himself.
I do agree with that. He's very also replicated as a character. Like American Dad has like a whole thing where they make parody it and stuff. Like, it's very parodied. It's very well known. But probably 90% of people who know who the Phantom are have not actually seen any of the Phantom of the Opera play, movie, or anything. So he's like surpassed his franchise, if that makes sense.
By that idea, though, I would also say that most people who know who the Phantom is probably has not seen the original Lon Chaney Jr. movie.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. They probably haven't seen either. I honestly feel like most people I know who the Phantom Opera is. Have you watched anything? Well, no, I just heard of it and seen it parodied and other stuff.
Probably more people have seen the musical than anything else.
Yeah, and I'm trying, because for me, the first thing that comes in my head is the theme of the Phantom, but I'm like, that's not what we're discussing about is not the musical, right? Like the stage musical, because that's the first time I ever heard of Phantom I saw it on stage. So
here's the question: how good is the movie?
We're talking about the 2004 Joel Schumacher movie.
Or the Lon Chaney classic 1930s.
We're talking all of them. How good are the movies? Because the character is up there, but does the movie bring it down or does it bring it up?
The musical is better than both of them, I think, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The musical really helps. The
So
2004. The thing is, this is unfortunately the problem with this is if you're a diehard fan of the musical, the 2004 Joel Schumacher movie it's okay, but it doesn't do exactly justice to it. If you're not a fan of the actual like Broadway musical, then the 2004 movie is fantastic. You're not going to know the difference.
You don't know the difference, yeah.
Yeah, I go with that. I would put this so far. I'm actually happy where it is right now. For right now.
I am too.
Potentially could definitely move down. I think, depending on how much is going on, because there's definitely more loved franchises. But for right now, because of the iconicness of the character, I'm happy putting it at C. Anyway, disagree?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, it's a good spot.
We'll move on. Frankenstein. This is a very tough one to call.
Frankenstein monster.
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
You're right. Frankenstein's monster.
Which is so weird that so many people assume that like this is Frankenstein.
Right.
And every time I hear it, I just roll my eyes. I'm like, oh.
There's a certain level of pop culture nowadays where we all like it's assumed, it's general common sense that we all know that when you say Frankenstein, you're talking about the doctor, but let's just say Frankenstein and everyone knows you mean the monster.
Right.
It's kind of one of those like you understand like how clouds in the sky are formed. Let's just move on and like, hey, there's water vapor floating around up there.
And you're going to call it a franchise. You're not going to call it the Frankenstein Monsters franchise. You're going to call it the Frankenstein franchise.
Yeah.
At that point. Again, I think that Frankenstein is kind of like the Phantom in a way, but he's got a much better franchise overall. He's got a lot of different attempts to do it, I think. There's been a couple different attempts more than the Phantom has had, even humorous attempts when you start talking about like Mel Brooks and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I think so for that way, I definitely would put him over the Phantom. I would actually probably put him at least in the B tier as of now. There's an argument to have him in the A tier, to be honest, because he's that iconic of a monster.
I feel like the classic monsters, like they not only everybody, like even, like some people may not know who Jason is like that, but like everybody knows who like the classic Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and things like that are. Every single Halloween story, there's, you know what I mean? So like I feel like they are at least A tier, if not S tier, because they are just for importance at least.
I could see an argument for S tier as well. I do believe it would get knocked down eventually, but pure horror icons, there's not many higher than the Frankenstein's monster. I would
argue it is S tier at least to start with, because
I'm about to say I think I'm willing to put it in S tier to start with, and then let's see what happens. I mean, I'll have arguments against it later on possibly, but I don't know. Robert, you were shaking your head a little bit.
Either way, I think as we continue with this, S tier is probably. Yeah, like my brother's saying, Universal Classic Monsters are probably all going to end up at least in the A tier.
Yeah.
S tier, I think, is going to end up becoming the ones that we know, given this current generation, the ones that we find iconic. So we're talking about Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers. Those are all going to go straight to S tier. Something like Frankenstein's monster is one of those that we're going to acknowledge that they're very key, very important to horror movies in general, but they're not there just because of the current generation. We're more likely to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street than we are the original 1930s Frankenstein.
Okay. I agree with that. I agree with that. Well, Caleb says S tier. Scream is S tier. We'll get to Scream. I'm not sure I agree with you on that, but we'll talk.
I was waiting for us to start.
I absolutely agree with him on that.
Wow.
And Frankenstein is one of those things that's so hard to tell because there has been some really great movies. Bride of Frankenstein, there's a lot of them, but then there's been some really bad ones. Like there was that one that came out, I don't know, recently, where Frankenstein was basically like hunting angels.
2017.
The one with Aaron
Eckhart.
Yeah, that one.
There's been some really bad of the others you were just mentioning before. Either they're like, there's some bad Nightmare on Elm Street. And
there was
Jason. I mean, like
for Frankenstein, there was also back in the 90s, there was the Kenneth Branagh directed one that starred Robert De Niro as Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Then there was also the, was it Mary Riley?
Mary Riley.
Starring Julia Roberts.
Yep.
As she was like the assistant to Dr. Frankenstein. So.
Yep. I think I can put it in S tier for now, and then we'll probably push it down. But as far as that, it's always harder to push. I have found it's always harder to push up than to push down. So let's start higher, and then
I have
we'll
noticed
go over
that.
there. So, all right, Scream,
Ghostface.
Ghostface, and Scream.
I have it high A.
I have it S. It is my favorite horror franchise. I love Scream. Ghostface was the first horror movie. Like, okay, I'll admit I saw it a year ago, but like it changed my viewpoint on horror to when I actually want to see it. I was actually Ghostface for Halloween one year, having never seen the movie when I was like 9.
Oh, the amount of times that I've been Ghostface for Halloween, because it's so easy. You get a black robe and you get the mask. Like,
and it's like good, and people are like, "Oh, cool, you're Ghostface," and it's like, "Yeah, have you seen the movie? No. Who cares? It's Ghostface." Like, I love Scream.
I think the first one is in my top 5 best. For me personally, top 5 best horror films for me. I love the first one.
Wow, Robert and I are both like, wow, this is where I think where pop culture comes in as far as horror goes. Scream definitely came out at a time where horror was on a downturn. It wasn't very liked, it wasn't very well received anymore as much as it was. The slasher films were all petering out at that point. And Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson came up with this, and it was such a shot in the arm at the time to really get to be more mainstream again. I will also argue that Scream wouldn't have happened without Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I feel that was the way that first started coming into that play. So it owes a little bit to the Nightmare franchise. Of course, with Craven at the head, it's definitely that as well. I can't ever see an argument of putting it on S tier. I could see an argument of it being higher up. It is definitely worth it, but the first film is fantastic.
Yeah.
Second
After
film
that, I'm like,
good.
See, I love the first one. I like the second one. I enjoy the fourth one. I'm a little lost on the third one. It's not my favorite, but like
I felt 3 was pretty bad.
I liked it better than like the Evil Dead franchise and stuff like that. Like I personally, as a whole, as a franchise, I like Scream that much.
Is Evil Dead even on this? Was Evil Dead down there?
Was there
no,
an icon
there's no
for Evil
icon.
Dead? There's
No,
Ash.
But
Ash.
Yeah,
he's not the horror.
villain.
He's not the villain.
Okay.
I get it. I would like to put Evil Dead on here, but
Well, Gizmo's not a villain either, but I mean, we'll get to that.
All right, so somebody can Robert. I want to hear what you have to say now after Kelsey's impassioned plea for S tier.
Right.
So the thing is like you were saying, is horror in the 90s was really like on a downturn. If you were to try to release a good horror movie in the 90s, it really was a very you had to go pretty much unknown, and a big studio for horror was New Line Cinema, which was essentially the studio that Freddy Alvarez, whatever that is. It was the house that Freddy built, and New Line was very generous in taking on new horror movies, much like Blumhouse right now. So having the Scream franchise, I think, was probably the beginning of a whole new era of horror movies, because you saw after Scream came out, you got like all the ones that were essentially copycats of it. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legends, Valentine, all of these were all copies of Scream. Scream is probably the closest to making a horror movie and a horror movie icon on the same level as Freddy, Jason, and Michael, given that of the 90s. I would rank Ghostface and Scream probably in the A tier for right now, just to see where he's going to go, but only because Scream really was the defining horror movie of the 90s.
You're not wrong. I'll agree with that. I struggle right now looking at it and going A tier, and that's where it's going to finish. But because of everything the precedent we've set, I'm comfortable with it in A tier. I think I could see it sliding down to B eventually, potentially. But I think maybe lower A. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. I do love the film. It's hard for me to go because Ghostface himself. It's hard to call him an iconic character because he's not a character. He's a mask. Like
He's an idea.
He's more
Yeah,
of an
because
idea.
because it's always on. It's been several people.
Right. So it's so that I have a hard time. Like Freddy Krueger's fucking Freddy Krueger. Ghostface is just whoever puts on a mask. And
also, like Brandon said, and like they actually said in the movie, that costume, that mask was available at any drugstore.
Right.
I mean, it's easy to get. This wasn't like Freddy Krueger, where if you want to dress up like Freddy Krueger, you either have to buy the mask or you have to do an intense amount of makeup.
Which is what I did.
Pretty sure this costume, $20, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah,
a black cloak
and you're done.
Black coat and the mask.
So I will say, I'll be comfortable enough leaving it for now, especially because Kelsey. I love Kelsey. So, but I will say also
because of Twilight. So.
Yeah, look at that. See, she's looking fantastic today.
I mean, doesn't she look fantastic every day though?
That's true. That's facts. But yes, I will never owe you for Twilight. You owe me for Twilight being as high as it was in our franchise ranking.
What do you mean, like high as it was? It was like D tier. What do you mean?
Still too high.
There's barely anywhere it could go lower.
It should not have been on the list.
Still too high. Should have been almost bottom of the list. Should have been almost the last one. Then there's one or two that I actually would put below it, but that's about it. All right, we'll move on.
The only thing I would say about Scream is I think, no offense, okay, but I think your age is showing a little bit here. I think Scream is iconic to the younger generation, like any of the older horror movies.
Okay.
And I know the character may not be, but the face mask, the clothes, the idea is so iconic.
Well, let me just push back just again a little bit back. The only reason I'm saying is that I'm not saying it's C or D tier or anything. I am agreeing that's iconic and A tier. I can't see it's S tier to me. That's a little too much for me. If that makes sense. But okay, we'll see it. But Malcolm's saying it too. Maybe I'm just an old fuck.
I would watch Scream over any other movie in this thing.
I mean, I do love that first film. I just also have a hard time with like one film great and the other one's kind of like getting.
But that's also like the thing too is like one of the arguments was like it was iconic in the 90s. It was so that I watched it a year ago. That's when I saw it for the first time. It has not aged poorly at all. Like it's fantastic.
Paul, let me ask you this: if you could just ignore everything but the first one, would you put it S tier?
I would put it solidly A tier. Right now, I'm putting it like tentatively A tier. I would put it solidly A tier at that point.
I've watched the first one countless times. The other ones, I'm just like, I'm not as interested. Like, it feels.
Spoiler alert! Once Randy died, I was kind of out of it.
And here's the thing, and I'm okay if I lose like some horror credentials with this. I actually kind of like the third one in so much of how it all wrapped up. When you find out who the killer was in the third one, how that was tied all the way back to the first one, that was fantastic. Much like, say, the Saw franchise, which as ridiculous as they got, they still were seemingly all tied together. It was one cohesive story. That's what the third Scream movie did. I agree that like maybe the beginning of the Scream of Scream 3 was kind of like okay, this is just formulaic and boring, but again, when you find out who the killer is and it's all tied together, that was fantastic. If anything, Scream 4 I think was probably like the loose end, like okay, now you're just trying to like make another one just to make another one,
like they're doing with Scream 5 now.
Potentially. It depends. If Scream 5 is connected to Scream 4, then you have a possibility. I feel like Randy in the Scream franchise at this point. If Scream 5 is connected to Scream 4, then you could potentially have an idea for a whole new trilogy. But otherwise, Scream 1 through 3 is a complete idea just in its own.
Just throwing it out to anybody. Has anybody ever watched like the series, the TV series? I never did, so I don't know.
I haven't. I want to.
Scream Queens, right?
No, there's a show called Scream.
No, but that
it's on
show's
like
fantastic.
MTV. I haven't watched it.
Scream Queens is fantastic.
It is hilarious. It is a great parody.
Oh,
of the horror
so
franchise.
Austin is here. I didn't know that.
Austin.
That Austin was here.
I'm like Brett. I just pop in every once in a while when I need to.
Sniper.
All right, let's move on. We are 40 minutes in. We're still on the first row here. All right, Pinhead and Hellraiser. Here's where we go with some of the main iconic alien characters.
I'm gonna admit I've never seen any of those movies. So
Oh, you, Kelsey, you? Out of all
I
people,
feel like
should
I
have
feel
seen
like-
these movies.
There's a lot of
I
stuff
have
that
heard.
you would love. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
given-
would get these.
Given what we know of you and like your background and personal life, yeah, you need to be watching these
and
Hellraiser.
your depravity.
Noted.
Yes,
depravity. Duly noted.
right up your alley. Okay, interesting note. So you never seen it? So Jerry, have you ever heard of the Hellraiser franchise and Pinhead?
I've heard of it, but not very often. I don't even know who this is.
That
I've
was
seen the face though. The face I've seen, but never, no idea.
Austin. Any inkling?
So I know the least about this character. Just looking at him, he's genuinely terrifying to look at. The needles poking in just makes me extremely uncomfortable. But as far as his movies go, I know very little about it.
All right, Buck. What about you? Have you seen Hellraiser?
Nope. I didn't even know who this was.
Okay, this is actually, I gotta admit, this is a little bit of a weak spot on my horror stuff. I know the first two. Well, I watched the first two a bunch of times, but then I don't even know how many sequels they have in this one. It kind of started going on.
Well, obviously, this is
like six,
S
seven
tier,
sequels.
right?
6, 7 sequels. I don't know. Robert, do you know how many sequels they have?
Yeah, they're beyond 10 at this point.
Yeah, it's like, and I've never watched any of them after that, to be honest with you. The first two, I think, is all that you really need from what I've heard.
Yes.
Okay. I did love the first one, and I did like the second one as well. I would say he's iconic enough. I would put him over. Well, is there an argument, Robert? Is there an argument to put him in B tier at all?
There's 10 of them at this point, and the last one, the 10th one that came out, didn't even star Doug Bradley as Pinhead, and it was so bad.
Then why would you even bother at that point?
Exactly. Well, that was Doug Bradley's argument, is that the script was so bad. He's like, this isn't even worthy of me being in it.
That's bad. Considering that Hellraiser 3 through 9 were pretty rough at times.
Yeah, and yeah, the rest of them, I agree. The first two are probably the only ones really worth watching. At this point, though, the thing is Pinhead is such an iconic character. I would almost include him if you were grouping, like, you ask any person off the street to start naming horror movie icons, you will get people mentioning Pinhead.
That's true.
Along with Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky.
Well, he's always been kind of like the redheaded stepchild of that kind of list.
I think Chucky's probably the redheaded stepchild. We'll get to that in a minute. I would probably put Pinhead as a high B, just because maybe this particular panel may not be familiar with Hellraiser, but it is a very, very iconic movie series. Iconic enough that those of y'all who are familiar with the Schmodown, which again is
What's that?
pretty much everyone here, y'all are familiar with the puzzle box that Mark Edward Hoyk is holding. That is the Lament configuration, which is the MacGuffin from the Hellraiser movies.
Yes.
So it's enough of a cultural icon for someone to make the puzzle box in real life and for it to be featured on the Schmodown.
Okay, I agree with that. I could kind of agree with that. So I would place him above Annie Wilkes at this point. I think Annie Wilkes is eventually going to go down, and unfortunately, it's only because of a lack of films. I really think that's it. I think it's really all going to hurt her. Pinhead is a little more iconic than Carrie, I think, maybe. What do you think, Pinhead versus Carrie?
I'd probably agree with that. Because, again, people are more likely to group Pinhead in with Michael, Jason, Freddy.
But like Paul said, 3 through 9, I mean, I haven't seen them, but I'm just going based off Paul's word. If they're that bad, I don't see that being enough to go over a more iconic character in Carrie.
True, but even if they're not that good, they still exist.
Comparatively,
it's a movie franchise that has 10 movies in it. I mean, not many movie franchises have 10 beyond Friday the 13th and Fast and Furious.
All right, now I'm gonna put it like this, and we can argue later on as we go down. I think we get, and towards the end we'll start nitty gritty picking kind of thing. So we'll go over that at that point. Okay, Little Shop of Horrors, Audrey.
Oh, that's what that was.
Yeah,
Figure out what that was.
Audrey 2, right? Audrey 2. Sorry,
I thought it was a piranha plant from Mario.
He's so cute. I want that.
Austin, that's what my first thought was.
Jugger's all agreeing. Jugger's a young guy. He's agreeing with the.
Thank you.
Although no, I just want to say Jugger just he came late. It's not just it's the franchise as a whole. So we'll see. We'll get there. Maybe it will be. Maybe we'll go. Now this panel keeps trying to push it up. So maybe by the end I'll be convinced.
And the chat mostly too. It's just like two of you guys that are just like ruining it for everybody else.
We're the old guard. We're the old guard.
You're ruining everything, Paul.
You're ruining everything, Paul.
That's what I do. Jugger, that makes me want to push it S tier. I don't want to ever. Jugger's a great guy. I don't ever want to make him sad. We'll see. We'll go back to it. How about that? But Audrey 2, let's see. I can't see it being anything higher than a C tier at best. I would even probably put it in D, to be honest with you. I love the musical, but I don't consider it a horror. I mean, it is like more horror comedy. What do you say?
I think right there is perfect.
In my personal list, A or S tier, but I understand it being a C. I'm not going to argue against having it at C tier, but I just love that movie so much. I actually been in the process. I want to make get the Maxwell coffee can and actually make a perfect replica of that so bad to keep in my house.
That'd be cool.
I love that movie and that character so much, but I'm not going to argue against C tier. I just don't want it to go below C tier.
Just go buy the Funko Pop of it.
I want it bigger. I want it like that mid size when it's in the coffee can size. It's sitting in my house. So people hey, what's that?
Show it again, Robert. Show it again.
Oh yeah.
It's so cute. I want it so bad.
Adorable.
I need to find that.
All right. What does everybody else have to say about it, Jerry? What do you know? What do you know about this role, Jerry? Nothing.
I don't know. Not a single thing. Never even heard the name.
Okay. All right. Austin.
If we're ranking it as the plant from Little Shop of Horrors, I think it's in C, and it'll be moved down to D. If it's a piranha plant from Mario, and A tier.
Good argument. Good argument. I like your heads up there. Buck, you're not too loud on this one. What do you guys say about this?
No, I think it's the right spot.
Okay. Below Lon Chaney's Phantom?
Yeah.
At this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fair. I just don't want to go too much lower.
I get it. I do like the movie quite a lot. I really do. All right. It's
Pazuzu.
Thank you, Robert.
Pazuzu.
Robert, you leave me on this one, Robert. Where do you think you should go?
Pazuzu is the demonic spirit that possesses Reagan in The Exorcist.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's the Exorcist franchise.
Yep.
If we are going strictly scary, this one's close to A or S because I've seen this. Scared me out of my mind. I couldn't sleep for 2 days. Just putting that out.
Jared's still pushing for Scream. I will say, yeah, Scream 2 is a solid sequel. Scream 4 is not amazing, though. Scream 4 is tired.
That last sentence is perfection. The opening scene of Scream is so good.
But it doesn't get S tier scarily off the opening scene.
Because of that scene, we all freaked out about an hour ago because someone put in the general's chat, Drew Barrymore's dead. I'm like, wait, what? I lost it. And then, they were talking about Riley's watch along.
I will give you that opening scene is an S tier scene in horror franchise history. I would give you that. But, all right, anyway, moving on. Pazuzu, I think it's got to be at least A tier because Exorcist franchise is.
I don't like The Exorcist. I didn't find it scary at all. I actually was bored out of my mind watching it. And I have not had any desire to continue the franchise after the first one because I had just.
Wow.
I was bored.
Oh, interesting call. I mean, Exorcist 2 is not that great, but Exorcist 3 is actually pretty good too, I think.
So, that's my opinion on.
Or
I think Robert just restrained a seizure.
He did. I think it did.
I will tell you out of my personal connection to it. I've seen the original Exorcist twice. The first time was to watch it just because I was curious. The second time was just to watch it again. I'm not gonna say I'm like hugely religious, but I do have like a religious background in me, and I feel like there's a part of me spiritually that it just can't watch that movie again. I have I tried watching it a third time, and it was really difficult to watch. It just did not feel right watching that movie, and I had to turn it off. And pretty much now, every time I watch anything that is talking about Exorcist, whether it's like something on TV or even like a Watch Mojo YouTube video, if they start talking about Exorcist, I usually just try to like fast forward and skip through it. I don't care too much to see anything about The Exorcist anymore. Again, I'm not that religious, but it does speak to me on a spiritual level, which I think that in itself is a pretty huge thing to say. But yeah, not a huge fan of the franchise overall. But for reference, speaking, Pazuzu is throughout the entire franchise. So that is a character that is within 2, 3, even the 2 versions of 4 that they did.
Yeah, that's right. I almost forgot about that. That's right. All right. Well, but I think it's got to be my initial instinct says AIDS here because it is so iconic. I mean, there's that roll, the head turning roll, the pea soup, and everything else. I mean,
thanks for that.
I'm willing to put it below Scream for you guys. I'll do that at this point. But I think it's above Pinhead, above Carrie at this point. It's pretty much one of the most famous franchises, a lot of people haven't seen it. I feel like it's one of those famous franchises that a lot of people haven't seen, but you still know the name of the movie, you still know the characters and everything else. Yeah. And it's also spawned off a lot of exorcism movies. There's been other, not exorcist movies, but exorcism movies, and I think it's all tied back to the success of this one. Yeah. So I think a solid A for right now. Pretty good. All right, Candyman. Okay, this is a tough one for me because I'm gonna lay it on the line. I think
that voice. Oh my god!
I do think that this is kind of more of a guilty pleasure one for me. It's not like the best of films, although I will say, as a white man, I'm not one to speak on it, but I know that culturally it has done a lot, has a lot more focus as well as grounders. I've been talking to some friends of mine that have said that it's been more of their film. It's been more important to them for that reason alone. So maybe it's because I'm a white man that I don't rank it as high. That could quite be the case. I don't know. What do you guys think about Candyman? Have you guys anybody seen it besides Robert? Like, I wonder about that because it was kind of a cult-ish thing back in the day, even though it's a remake coming.
I haven't seen it. All I know is that Tony Todd is Candyman. First thing I saw Tony Todd in, Smallville.
The greatest show of all. Okay, sorry.
This is not a Smallville.
Who is he in Smallville?
Can we turn this to like a Smallville episode ranking?
He was the guy, the jitters villain.
I'm down with that too because I watched that.
He's also the voice of Zoom on The Flash.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
he's also
his voice gives me nightmares.
He's also in The Rock with Ed Harris.
He's also in the
I kind of led you there, so that's my fault. That's my fault.
We need to save an hour at the end of the stream so we can figure out who Ed Harris should play in each of these franchises.
Don't put that
out there.
Don't
encourage him.
Tony Todd is a major horror icon. He's been, of course, famous in Candyman, but was also in Final Destination and in the Hatchet series. So
that's right. I forgot about that. That's true. Okay.
I've seen Candyman.
This is just going off Candyman and not the other ones, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've seen Candyman. I saw it at an age where I don't think I didn't really appreciate horror movies per se. So that's one I want to revisit. It's actually on my list of movies I want to watch again. I didn't like it that much. I mean, I liked it okay, but I wasn't taken with it very much. But that also, like I said, I didn't see it at the right time, I think, as well.
I get that. That's cool. All right.
All I've ever heard about this is the movies are garbage. Wow. That's literally all I've ever heard.
Wow.
They're being brought up.
All right. All right. Then I are you going to go below B, Robert? What do you think?
So Candyman was actually based. The idea of the Candyman movie was based more on like a folklore type of thing. It was focused less on, like, say, for example, Freddy and him killing teenagers, and that's what you wanted to see in a horror movie. You wanted to see that killer killing people. Candyman was based more off of the idea, in which you really didn't see Candyman, at least in the first movie. You didn't see him that much. From what we've seen in the trailers of the new movie that's going to be coming out, it's seemingly kind of playing more onto the idea of Candyman and not so much Candyman himself. That being said, he is also a story. The movie is also from Clive Barker, who did Hellraiser. Mm-hmm. So therefore, I would absolutely 100% not rank him any higher than Pinhead, because Pinhead is the more iconic Clive Barker character.
100%. I would actually put him. I almost want to put him right there for now.
That would probably be safe for right now, only because below him you have Phantom and Audrey 2, who are both good but not necessarily relevant right now. And again, Candyman has a movie that's supposed to come out at some point in the near future. Who knows when?
All right.
Thanks, COVID.
Thanks, COVID. All right. Move on then to Psycho.
Norman Bates.
Bates.
I love
This is gonna be a good one.
Okay, now this is a classic character, a classic story with multiple sequels, a remake, and a successful prequel TV series as well. I don't want to. I know he's not a classic monster, but I feel he's like the godfather of the more modern horror movies in a way. It's like the bridge, I would say, the bridge between the classic monsters and then the 70s horror genre in a way. I mean, Hitchcock was a lot of that. Hitchcock was definitely in that realm. Yeah. But I think Psycho is his number one straight horror film in a way.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the word. I was like, offspring, no, brainchild. Like, I was trying to think of the right word as to what Psycho, like, it's his number one. It's his one that everyone knows Alfred Hitchcock for, or a majority of people.
Yeah. And like the score, like that song, like, you know, for the whole scenes like that is the iconic being murdered song. Like if you think of someone getting stabbed to death, you're like, you immediately hear in your head.
Oh.
And we're talking about scenes, S-tier scenes. I think that might be the S-tier scene.
The S-tier scene.
That shower scene is
so
probably
beautifully
the most
shot. Oh.
Well, exactly. And there's parodies of it. There's remakes of it. I mean, hell, it was such a classic movie that when they remade it, they tried to make it shot for shot because they didn't want to go any further. It was not a great idea, but
that was so bad.
So bad. But that's how much respect they had for the film in a way. I mean, why bother? But you know, I gotta put it at least an 8 here, and I would actually put it definitely above Pazuzu for me. Mm-hmm. And I'd have the argument that it is above Scream.
I agree with you. I would have both like in the S tier Scream in it because like Psycho is like my horror movie. Like when I want to watch these like scary stuff like that. Also, I'm weird and I have like a huge crush on Norman Bates as like a young adult. So,
Kelsey, to be honest, I am not shocked by that whatsoever. Not.
Kelsey, you haven't seen Hellraiser.
It's on my list.
You're gonna have a new attraction soon, Kelsey. Okay.
Am I? Oh, you're good definitely. To know. But I would have it in that order of Norman Bates and Ghostface. I would have that shifted up to S tier in my opinion. But if you're gonna have them in A tier, just like that's
okay.
I would actually put this at S tier, at least in your theory of it might get knocked down, because this is when you talk about iconic. Honestly, I think this is one of the most iconic in this whole list because of just the normal people. Everyone knows that shower scene. Everyone knows that music. Everyone knows the name. Everyone knows that face right there.
I don't disagree.
To be honest, anytime Jerry is actively talking about something, I feel like that automatically is high A or S tier because, like he said, he only knows the really iconic ones. So when Jerry can say more than 2 words about it, it's got to be a high A or S tier, right?
That's not a
And
bad.
when I think of horror, I think of Norman Bates more than anybody else.
Okay,
That's
I'm
just
willing.
my
I'm
opinion.
willing to put it at number 1 right now. I'm willing to do that right now. I think over that. Robert, what do you think? I'm only gearing towards Robert just to make sure he's on board.
I love the original Psycho. That is a great horror movie. It's freaking classic.
Mhm.
Everything y'all said absolutely correct. The shower scene is iconic. The movie itself was one of the first. It was the first movie to show a toilet flushing, which I don't know if that really matters for this list, but it's always fun to know.
It's SS tier now.
Yeah, it's
That's
absolutely
the deciding factor for this list.
Toilet.
It was also really good as far as one of the first major movies that had a dramatic twist to it, in that you had a seemingly the iconic actress of that movie, Janet Leigh, was killed off like immediately, and you wouldn't have thought that was possible.
Spoilers.
In a horror movie. The movie
Also,
came out in the
I am
60s. You had
pretty
enough
sure-
time.
You've had
That-
plenty of time to see it.
I'm pretty sure any film school that you go to, when they have a cinema history class, Psycho will always be on that list.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yep.
There you
It's,
go.
it's almost like the Citizen Kane of horror movies.
Yeah.
It's just so iconic. It's widely regarded at the top of just about every horror person's list.
Except
Fair enough.
easier to watch than Citizen Kane.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yes, that is true.
All right, let's move on then. The Invisible Man, back to those Universal monsters, but with the added kick of a very successful recent movie. That's an interesting point to bring up. I don't know where
You
that
said 5 per tier, right?
5 for tier. Yep.
So we're about to fill up B.
So I loved the new one. Like, I loved that movie. But other than that, I have very limited knowledge on the Invisible Man. I haven't watched any of the others. But
I've
I
actually
loved
never really liked the character that much, but I did love this first movie, or the new movie rather. I will say the franchise slipped up when it had Chevy Chase as the Invisible Man at one point.
Oh, I love that movie. Memoirs
What?
of an Invisible Man was fantastic. That was such a good movie.
Good movies are strong phrase for you, Robert. It's a strong phrase. I
would see if you were
entertaining.
If you were arguing Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon, then maybe I could understand the argument. But Memoirs,
Funny thing is, I actually like Hollow Man a little bit better. To be honest with you.
but here's the thing: Memoirs of an Invisible Man was directed by John Carpenter, so it was done by someone who knew horror to begin with.
But it was weird. It was just kind of a weird
Yeah,
thing. It was a little. It's entertaining. Don't get me wrong. I was entertained by it. I saw it in the theaters and was happily entertained by it. But yeah, I can't put it higher than C. I don't think. Although I almost feel like I could put it in front of Candyman for now and see what happens when Candyman comes out. I don't know. Where would you rank it? Where would you guys rank it at this point?
I think it's fine there. I don't think he's more iconic than anybody in the B tier. Like,
Haven't seen either one.
Okay.
So
Okay, Robert, then you good with that there, then you think? Or you want to move up at all?
yeah, only because of the recent success of the Lee Winnell movie and the fact that Lee Winnell may be. Good Lord, Cat.
You know that?
He wants to be fed now.
now.
But only
at
because
2:15 in the morning.
yeah, Lee Winnell is okay. She's like moving my furniture. He might be in charge of like the new incarnation of the Universal Monsters.
Monsters.
So I don't know. I
So
mean,
what,
that
they're
was a
trying
fairly
it a
successful
second
movie, so-
time within like what 3 years?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Probably will. All right, we'll
Okay.
give him there for now. He might.
I'm gonna go take care of her real quick. I'll be right back.
I definitely could see this happening at some point.
Yeah.
And going there potentially.
I think
but-
I think once we go further down the list, I think that's most likely what's going to happen.
I'll even.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because Robert's here before we move on to the next one. In A League of Their Own, was there an Invisible Man in there?
In a League of Their Own?
Yeah. Wasn't there?
The
You
baseball
mean
movie?
League of Extraordinary
No.
Gentlemen?
Oh.
Yeah, the greatest movie ever made.
I was like,
Yeah.
wait a second, Jerry.
Very
A League of Their
confused.
Own. Why are
Totally
you
threw
talking
me
about a
for a
World
loop.
War
Okay.
II?
I mean, there
We're
might be
a
someone
baseball
invisible there. We
movie.
just can't see them. I didn't hear that plot point,
There's
but
no crime in
Plenty of
Invisible Man.
invisible people.
In Extraordinary Gentlemen, yes, I believe I haven't watched it in a long time, but yes, there
Yeah,
was
his name was Skinner.
Skinner. Well, yeah, that's true, and it definitely is part of it. That's part of the luster of it. So, But
I don't know about Luster. That was a bad movie.
Yeah, that's a bad movie too. To be honest, too. Okay, I'm going to go there for now. No, Weston, I love you, brother. I love you. It is not underrated. If anything, it's over. It's not. I can't say it's overrated because everybody hates it, but it was bad. The Tom Cruise's Mummy was bad. Bad film.
How
like
dare you
Jake
talk
Johnson in it,
bad
but that's
about
about it.
TC Legend?
Ben and Drew will tell you the same thing, guys.
I haven't seen it, but
It's-
I heard it.
Damn awful.
So I have a question.
Okay.
Mhm.
Why are the aliens from They Live not on this list?
Ooh, that's a good point. I wish they were on this list.
They need to be on this list.
Oh man, I almost want to find a way to do it. Actually,
You could replace one of the excluded people as them.
I could. That would be very confusing of the drunk people watching along with
Yeah,
us.
which is all of us.
All right, we can move on about Robert at this point. We can talk later about it. It's okay, because I know everybody's probably seen Gremlins. I got to assume that Gremlins is something that's been seen by people generally. Has anyone not seen Gremlins?
I'm putting it F tier because it scares the fuck out of me.
Cherry, you haven't seen Gremlins? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Surprise. I know, shocker.
Shocker. Austin, have you seen? You've seen it then?
Oh yeah, I've seen
Okay.
Gremlins.
Okay. I'm. By the way, I'm not putting it there for any reason right now. I'm just kind of
Yeah,
like.
it just-
I love Gremlins and Gremlins 2 are both good, solid 80s movies. But I almost feel like they're 80s. I don't know, more 80s than they are horror movies, to be honest with you. They're fun. I don't know, scary is the right word, though. I don't know. What do you think, Kels?
I saw them when I was pretty young. I can't even remember how old I was. I was maybe like 10 or 11. I didn't find it scary. I found it more entertaining and fun. I think it's very iconic. Like we quote it all the time. Like, but I don't know. I don't even know where I'd put it. It's a very iconic franchise, very iconic movie, but I don't also think it's as good, if that makes sense. Like on like a, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Honestly, I didn't even know those were
right
horror
behind.
movies.
You know it's a horror movie?
No, I thought they were just like 80s, fun movies. I never
That's
watched
kind of
them.
how I saw it too. Was
I mean, it's kind of what it is. There's Gremlins are monsters, though. I mean, to agree, like not that one, not Gizmo. But so I understand the argument both ways. I very rarely ever looked at it as a horror. Like, if I was gonna go, I'm gonna watch a horror movie, I would never choose Gremlins to watch.
I watch Gremlins
But-
as a Christmas. Gremlins is a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
Like
it's kind of a scarier Christmas movie, but that fits in with you. That fits in with Kelsey's brand very much so. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't wait for Robert to come back with to at least to grade it, but my initial instinct is to put it at that B tier because it's less horror than anything else. But it is well known. That's what brings it up in the list.
Yeah.
And you know what? Starter, you're right. Alien should be on here, but Alien.
Yeah. Aliens and the Xenomorphs should absolutely be on there.
And that would be S tier, I think.
That would be S tier for me too.
That's the issue you get when you go to these pre-made lists.
I know, but then they're so pretty, so I don't want to make it. That's the only problem.
I mean, like, if you give warning, then you can have people say, "All right, we want these on there," and have someone go grab the photos.
Yeah, I'd do that.
But that would take actual work and preparation.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're a little more impromptu here right now.
We're going to coast off of other people's work for now, and then just complain about it.
Yep.
That
That's more fun.
So like most of the movies in the horror film franchise,
Pretty much.
we're honoring.
There you go. All right, at least till Robert gets back, I'm gonna leave it here for now. I
think it needs to be lower, honestly.
Lower.
Yeah.
Lower than Candyman, though? Really? You think?
So the thing is,
Yeah.
if we've filled up a lot of these upper tiers. We have so many left. I feel like a lot of these are going to get moved down,
and they
or the ones we're about to go through are all D and F tier.
Which we have a lot of S tier and A tier. I feel down there, so
Yeah.
things might get pushed down.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll leave it
Not
there for
spring.
now until we get Rob. I said Robert's been on. I'm going to go down here and let's get rid of one to really spice things up. Beetlejuice. This is one of those. It's kind of like Gremlins in a way. I'm going to put it there for now. It's kind of like Gremlins in a way. And that is it really a scary movie? No, but it's in that realm. It's almost like a horror comedy-ish.
This
But
is where me
in
and
the
Alex would get in a
conversation.
fight because I don't put it as a horror movie. I'd put it
I
as
don't
like
either.
a dark themed comedy. dark comedy.
That's exactly what I'd say about Gremlins.
Yeah, that's why I put Gremlins too. Like it's a dark comedy.
Yeah, you're not wrong. They're both so iconic characters, though. So it's hard to like argue. I know, I get it. Is it argued as a horror franchise, though? Maybe I could move it down. I guess I could move both of them down. I would put Beetlejuice. I put Gremlins over Beetlejuice on. I think it's hard for me to put Beetlejuice so low because I love the movie so much.
I love Beetlejuice, but
this is a great movie.
The hell is Gizmo so high for?
Okay, we were waiting for you to come back to make a final decision on Gizmo.
Gremlins is not a horror film, we decided, but it is an iconic 80s. It's more of a comedy, almost a comedy horror, but
it's horror light.
Yeah, it is.
Horror adjacent.
We're saying it's kind of more of a Christmas horror.
It's a Christmas movie.
It's a very Kelsey
not
Christmas
a Christmas movie. Let's not start a die-hard Christmas movie debate here.
Die Hard, it's a Christmas movie. It's my favorite Christmas movie.
It's a Kelsey Christmas movie. So,
first of all, we're talking about Halloween, so yeah, let's not talk about Christmas movies.
Or that's an interesting take, Malcolm. Interesting that horror movies don't need to be scary. I mean, there are comic horror films in a way, but it's hard to. I don't know. Like Dead Alive is a horror comedy that works as a horror movie, I think.
That's more of a
I've seen that
comedy,
one.
but
but it still works as a horror to a degree, I think. I mean, it's a bit more gore porn than anything else.
It's gore porn. That's exactly what the movie.
Pretty much.
Trying to think of other examples. I mean, Shaun of the Dead's not a horror movie, but there's aspects of
that one. I mean, it is a zombie movie.
Right, exactly. So it's
zombie movies are
the thing is horror. The word horror can be subjective.
Yeah, I agree.
Like one thing. So,
any streaming service you look up under horror, most all of them have right now. They have that Tucker and Dale versus Evil. That's not essentially a horror movie either, but
it counts.
It's a comedy movie that plays on horror tropes.
That's the way it is. Okay, well then, what would you? Because Beetlejuice is the same way. We talk about that, Robert. Beetlejuice is not really a horror either. It's more of a dark comedy.
Well, I mean, by that definition, so is Little Shop of Horrors with Audrey too.
Fair.
Is this though his most iconic?
So should we maybe just put them down here like that at this point? It's hard to do that,
I guess, but I almost feel like they need to be on their own completely different ranking system. Like if we were to rank horror movie light icons, then we could rank like Gremlins, Beetlejuice, and Audrey.
Should we exclude them?
You could do that. Exclude them for that reason.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. I don't know if I delete this, my man.
Would you put Chucky in that same one?
No.
Chucky is horror.
Yeah, he's
I guess
straight up horror.
It actually tries to be scary.
For me, I see it as a comedy.
Okay, this is a movie I actually haven't seen yet, Robert. I haven't seen Terrifier yet.
I haven't seen it either.
So the original, this is Art the Clown. The original was an anthology movie called All Hallows Eve, in which all of the movies, each vignette of the anthology had something to do with Art the Clown in some way. He was a running theme throughout all of them, much like Sam is in Trick or Treat. And then they made an offshoot movie called Terrifier, which is one of the most violent movies like ever. And there's supposed to be a sequel to it that was supposed to come out like right by now, but I'm pretty sure because of the
COVID
pandemic that it's been delayed until spring, last I read. But Terrifier, the thing is, he's got the potential. Art the Clown has the potential to be a major horror movie icon. Just the stuff they did in Terrifier is terrifying.
Kelsey, would you swipe right or?
I mean, the clown.
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering. So
I'll have to watch the movie to give you my full judgment, but
okay.
I would look at his profile.
There you go.
Look at the profile before making a decision.
Where would you rank them, Robert? I'll leave this one to you because I don't know it.
As of right now, I'd probably put him in like C. I put him in maybe a higher end of C, only because there's a very strong potential that he's going to be more well known in the future.
I gotta say, just the fact that I'm pretty much a horror guy, and I don't really know much about him yet. I can say I know The Invisible Man and had a great movie. I know The Phantom of the Opera. That's as far as iconicness. I don't think he can be great, but not quite be iconic yet.
I probably put him before The Phantom.
Okay.
I can understand putting him under The Invisible Man just because of, again, the Lee Whannell movie was more mainstream than anything Art the Clown has been a part of. So,
fair enough.
And it was more well liked, guaranteed more well liked than the movie Terrifier. So
fair enough. Andreas, hurry home. Andreas is actually going to join us when he gets home. We'll have to catch him up a little bit, and he'll be able to bring us through the ending there. I know he's another big horror aficionado, so he'll be able to help us through.
He will be joining me on next Saturday. We're doing the watch along of The Evil Dead.
Ah, that should be fun.
He will be with me on that. So
That'll be
That'll be
fun.
fun. Andres is a good dude. You know him from the Schmodown if you watch him there. But he's also just a great dude in general. All right, let's move on then to, let's see, Saw franchise.
Jigsaw.
I gotta be honest with you. I gotta watch the whole franchise. I kind of fell off the franchise at one point because it just seemed to be a lot more torture porn than I was really loving. But I do want to go back to it and see.
I love the first ones. Like, I love the concept. I think it's a fantastic concept. I love the first one. I enjoyed the second. The third, that's when it kind of started getting a little bit more violent, where I was kind of getting unsettled. So I haven't watched past that point. But I love the first two for sure. Like, and I love the concept. And Jigsaw, I think, is a very cool visual character. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I'd say high-ish B, in my opinion. But
my initial instinct is low A because of just how much I've heard his story, and I really have watched some of it. So, I think it's almost too much torture porn to be like. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just more of a judgment of mine. Help me out. Where do you, Jerry? Here, would you rank the Saw franchise, Jigsaw?
I would rank the Saw franchise as low A or high B because it's iconic. Like, I know what it is, but it's not like one of the bigger iconic ones. It's on the lower end to me.
I was wondering if my age was coming into play because I know it's definitely more of a Scream era horror franchise. So I don't know. What do you say, Buck?
I was thinking like middle B tier, to be honest. Okay. It's just like you said, the whole torture porn thing. It's just not my cup of tea. I don't gravitate to it. I don't enjoy it. I don't see the point of it. So for me, that's why it's kind of middle B tier.
Okay. All right, Austin, what do you think about Jigsaw?
I was thinking more along the low A, high B.
All right. That's
where I put it.
As far as iconicity, if that's a word,
yep,
he's extremely recognizable by just about everybody. As far as the quality of all of the movies, I mean, like the first 1, 2, and 3 are good, and then after that, it kind of drops off. So I think on that, he gets pushed to low A, if not high B.
All right, Robert, hit me with what you got on this one.
I love the Saw franchise. 1 through 7. They do kind of like drop down in quality as they go, and they, like Kelsey was saying, they do become more and more reliant on gore. Not necessarily a bad thing, depending on if you like gore in your horror movies or not. But I think when they hit that Jigsaw movie a couple of years ago, oh god, that was so bad. And I'm kind of curious as to see what Chris Rock is going to do with the Spiral that's supposed to be coming out pretty soon.
So excited for that one.
Thanks, COVID.
The thing is the torture porn franchise as a whole there's been a lot of movies involved in that. I mean, even directly connected, I would say, was Hostel.
Yeah.
So you've gotten a lot of movies that have been born out of that torture porn idea. Yeah. Whether we like it or not, box office numbers show that people in general really love that subject of horror movies. And Saw was the big one that first led it.
Yeah, I agree.
I would keep him in A, exactly where he's at right now.
I think that's a good point.
Question for you guys. Now, we know that these movies cost very little to make, like extremely low. So it's easier for them to make a profit. Do you think that's why they've gotten so many of them?
Yeah, that's why a lot of horror movies get
like most horror movies get made.
Horror movies are usually pretty cheap to come by. You can make them for a good like 10 million, and you can make a good 20, 30, 40 million at the bank, and then it's easy.
If it's said that anyone who's interested in making movies, your first thing that you should do is make a horror movie. They're cheap, they're easy to do. Scaring audiences is a simple concept.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really the best entry into movie making.
It's also easy to do when you have no lights. You have like one light.
As someone who does film stuff, though, I would probably argue against that one because it takes a decent kind of camera. Like the camera I'm on right now for this is a DSLR. This does very well in low light conditions, like most horror movies. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it probably looks different in the YouTube video that people are watching rather than it looks like here for us on StreamYard. Here on StreamYard, this looks fantastic, but this is the same camera I use for Schmodown Replay, and I've seen it on the other end, and it kind of looks like crap. But still, this looks better than like my iMac that I'm on, the built-in camera or a webcam. So,
okay.
Yeah, it takes a specialized kind of camera equipment to do dark movies like horror, but you save a lot in your, say, special effects because everything's dark. You don't need everything brightly lit, so you don't have to see the zippers on the back of the monster's costume and whatnot.
Right, exactly. Okay. Well, we'll put them at low A tier for now then. Leatherface.
Oh, that's
Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Either below Scream or above it. Like I can't decide. Like Leatherface.
My personal thing again is I think Scream should be an S tier, but I would put Leatherface in front of Scream, but I still want Scream on the S tier.
We could get there. Kelsey. It depends on how much you want to pay me.
PLD, I think Scream is the Mick Foley of this list.
I think Austin, good call. LD product. Austin will be my permanent tier making panelist. My commentary for each one. I like that. Scream is the Mick Foley of our list so far. We're going to make sure. So if that holds true, then yes, indeed, Scream will be S tier by the end of the podcast. But Leatherface is an iconic. I mean, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is probably one of the most iconic movies of all time. It's probably as close to a Psycho in a way in terms of that kind of amongst the horror crowd, not necessarily maybe in the generalized crowd. But it's an amazing low budget film. It's amazing what Tobe Hooper did with that. As far as there's not a lot of gore in there. Like it feels like it's gory, right? It feels like it's gory, but if you don't know. If you see it once, you think back like, oh, gory movie, oh, it's scary, and everything else. But there was nothing in it. That's how good the filmmaking was, though, because it made you feel that. Very little bit. It kind of almost felt like a documentary gone wrong in a way. That's how the film went to me. It had a couple different sequels. It's funny. It's got the most different sequel I think I've ever seen. I remember when I first saw this film, I followed up almost immediately with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is a completely different style of movie. Same director, but it's almost like a comedy. It's almost that kind of a comedy kind of thing. It's so over the top. Yeah. The third one was it's all right. I guess it's kind of forgettable, but
let's talk about the fourth one.
And there's the fourth one. Yeah, that's true. We can talk about the fourth one if you want. If you really want to, Robert, we can talk about the fourth one. But it did have a remake. It have a reboot that was pretty solid. Reboot overall. I got to say, you talk about the franchise itself and the iconic of the character. I definitely would put him at S tier at this point. It could be knocked down potentially. I almost want to put him up there because I'm starting to think that Frankenstein's monster is going to have to come down.
I think he's going to have to come down. I've been reevaluating things, how bad I want Ghostface on there, but I also want like Freddy and things like that. I feel like Ghostface should be in front of Frankenstein, honestly, now that I'm reevaluating things.
I will say potentially. I agree. Potentially, the thing is, the reason why I will say that, I think Frankenstein's monster is iconic for monsters, but for movies themselves, they're not as known, I think. So that's what I'm going to say. I will definitely put him down a little bit. I might even go there at this point. I might even put him down past the Exorcist franchise at this point. But we can revisit that, I guess. We'll talk later. I said Leatherface as far as S tier for right now. Does that sound good for everybody?
Yeah.
Anybody against that?
I'm just waiting for the next one.
Okay.
I would just say that I don't know if this is as iconic, at least in the general populace, as you think.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's even lower than Saw when it comes to iconic.
Really?
To me.
Wow. Interesting.
Like, I know the name, but I couldn't tell you anything about this movie or even the character right there. Not at all.
Okay.
All I know is the name.
Okay.
Just pointing that out. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Yeah. Star Jew seems to think Leatherface over Pinhead and this down that far. I can't put him down that low because of the iconics. Okay, but that's an interesting point though. I'll try to keep that in mind as we move this forward. All right, Halloween and Michael Myers.
He should be number one. He is he's number one for me.
That goes straight S tier. Yeah.
Oh, is
Yeah.
definitely S tier.
Yeah, definitely
Yes.
S tier.
I could agree with sticking him above Psycho.
I
Above
personally
Like-
would have him behind, but I see the argument for him to be ahead, so I
Like,
won't
it's-
argue too hard on that. But personally, I would put Psycho before. But.
Like, one of the things that I love about it is you don't really know that much about him. Like, we don't know the actual story, which
Rob
depending on which
Zombie
Halloween
kind of.
movie you watch.
Rob Zombie
Yeah.
screwed that up.
I
Don't count
guess-
that one.
I guess you could say that is
Awesome.
one critique is the timeline and the canon is a little confusing. Like, that's the
doesn't really
one
matter
critique,
for
but
franchises, really.
for me, like, I can rewatch the 78 one over and over and over. Like, to me, that one is one of the most perfect horror movies for me.
I will say one of my favorite anecdotes of Halloween is the very fact you had to bring up continuity, so I had to bring it in there. It is the only film that has had three sequels to the original film, or two sequels to the original film, or whatever. But I love the fact that, well, actually three if you count. Oh, all right, here we go. You have Halloween, the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a Halloween movie from 2007 from Rob Zombie. You have
That's
a
not a
Halloween
sequel.
movie from 2018 or whatever it was. Was it 18?
Yeah.
But Halloween, that Halloween, that Halloween from 2018 is actually Halloween 2.
Yes.
So it's actually a remake of Halloween 2, but it's called Halloween.
Yes.
This is the most confusingly named franchise in the history of franchises, I think.
Yeah. It's Michael Myers.
It is. But anyway, it is a strong franchise, though, I gotta say. Halloween, the 78 film, strong. Halloween 2, good. Halloween 3,
I will argue Halloween 3, even though it has nothing to do with Michael Myers, is a fantastic movie. It was highly underrated just because it has nothing to do with Michael Myers, but it is really good. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, so good. And it has a song that once it's in your head, you will never get it out of your head.
I have come full circle. I didn't like the third one. I liked it, and I'm kind of like, I like it, but I kind of consider it out of the franchise. I don't really watch it in the franchise.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've watched the first one probably like 20, 25 times. All of the other ones, maybe once or twice. Like, I like watching the first one.
I am a sucker. I am a sucker for Halloween 4. I gotta admit, I love the fourth one. Fifth one, I hate.
Yeah.
Sixth one's even worse.
After they start revealing that the whole thing is this like druid cult thing, just go away. Yeah, no, never mind.
Again, and then H2O was good.
H2O wasn't bad.
It was good.
To
It
be
was
honest, I'm
watchable.
probably gonna watch this tomorrow.
Resurrection was awful.
Yeah, when you brought Busta Rhymes into the Halloween, no.
And then bring it into, I will also bring in and say, I am one of the people who actually didn't mind the Rob Zombie remakes.
The first remake was actually decent.
It's not. A lot of people argue this because of what Buck said, the mysteriousness of it, that they totally took that away.
Yeah, that bothered me.
And I get that, but because it's such a different, I look at it as a different franchise in a way. So I look at it, not in this case, I have to count it as one franchise, but I look at it, I took that in mind. Okay, knowing that this is not anything to do really with the other films I've seen. I was able to look at that and go, wow, it's kind of an in-depth kind of.
You could kind of say that it has like a multiverse feel to it with all the separate plots and canons and.
It's like Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's in the same universe, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah. And then, of course, the new ones, which are also both solid, watchable, possibly fun films. Anyway, I mean, I guess I get the arguments against some of them. I can't wait for the next one. I think it's another time. That's fun time in the cinema for me. So,
I thought the new one was kind of forgettable, but
watchable, and you had a good time.
Yeah, I thought it was decent, but
right. That's exactly where I would put it. But either way, arguing down, it's definitely S tier. I will put it at number 1 from now. I could also see Kelsey's point, though. I could obviously see Norman Bates being higher. But without further ado, we do have another guest in the house here. I'm going to throw him in there. He's on screen now. Mr. Andres Gallagher. Look at that.
Oh, look at it.
Ready.
wearing the iconic mask from the third Friday the 13th movie.
That's very iconic. How you doing, buddy?
He's even got his eye closed. That's fantastic. Way to go.
I do like the commitment to that at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yep. How's it going, guys?
It's going good, man. Having a lot of fun here. Having a lot of fun doing this. I'm so happy you were able to make it home from work and get on here and let's do this thing. We should catch you up where we are real quick. We'll do some catching up.
Awesome.
What we're doing.
Why's my dude Gizmo excluded right now?
Okay, we'll get there in a second. First of all, we have the horror icons here, but the horror icons are representing franchises. Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
We excluded these two specifically because they had
counterparts.
Things. Yeah. We decided at this point to exclude these because these are more horror comedy 80s horror.
They're horror movie light.
Yeah, horror movie light is a good way to describe them. So we decided not to rank them up in this because we were putting them too low, but because they're actually more iconic, but they kind of couldn't rank them against these kind of things as well.
Yep. I thought it was unfair to the character who showed.
Okay. And let's say, honestly, if you have any objection with our tiers so far at this point, we got the Phantom of the Opera here.
No.
Terrifier, which I haven't actually even seen.
Art the Clown. Yep.
Art the Clown.
Yes, Art.
The Invisible Man, who we strength over here because of the strength of the new movie.
Mm-hmm.
Candyman here. Okay. Misery doesn't have a franchise, obviously, but she's so iconic. I got to have her in there, and she was in the role. So,
and it was
an Oscar-winning performance. Carrie, of course, there. Again, more of a strength of a good role, but not a pretty much forgettable franchise after the first film. Pinhead, classic film, but kind of like Chucky, the redheaded stepchild of the slasher genre to a degree, compared to like the big three or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. Saw here, the 90s. It's not my favorite franchise, but I actually should interject.
I was impassioned about it. So
Kelsey, Jerry, Brendan, Buck, and Austin. Kelsey's actually knowledgeable as far as this goes. Buck, Jerry, and Austin are very low key horror guys. Jerry doesn't watch horror, so it's an interesting panel to have on here. They're bringing up the Saw and also the Scream being because they're much younger than I am. That's why they're putting them all in these franchises. So we got Saw there. Frankenstein, we kind of had him at S tier, but we kind of bumped him down because he's more iconic as a monster franchise per se.
He's got one really great film.
Right.
No, actually two with The Bride. I take that back. But he's definitely more known for being the entity as opposed to the quality of the films because they kind of go down afterwards.
100%.
So, yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Exorcist. It was funny that Exorcist was not well loved by this panel. I was surprised, but yet it's still an A tier because we understand the iconicness of it. I love the first.
I said the Exorcist was S tier.
You did. That's true, Jerry. Yeah. You did say that. You'd heard of it. I like the first one. I thought the third one was good, but I don't know. What do you think? I'm kind of curious about your opinion on that, Andres.
Well, on The Exorcist, I think the first film is flat out fantastic, and it's perfect in every single respect. Like, when you look at a lot of horror films, there are not a lot that are so well-crafted in that sense where all the scares even transcend even to today. Like, that movie will still scare the shit out of you today. Mm-hmm. The sequels are kind of where it starts to fall apart a little bit, but I agree with that in the same aspect that, again, Frankenstein's iconic in that rank as well. Pazuzu, it's ultimately the embodiment of evil, so that is probably something that I could see. I could see that right there being an A. Although my preference for the sequels would actually be 3. I think 3 is an underrated film. Like,
I agree.
2 is just fine, but 3 is probably the one where it's the Halloween 3 of the franchise, where it was hated in the beginning, but people go back to it and then they just go, oh, well,
I kind of see what they're doing.
Yeah, it's great on its own.
This sounds familiar.
It does. We just did it pretty much.
Yeah, it sounds like we already said this.
I feel like
Yeah,
I just said this.
It's funny that we have Andres and Andres is actually probably better than I am too. Andres and Robert are probably our S tier as far as the horror critics are. I'm kind of the A tier. I think Kelsey might be low A.
It's high B.
High B?
I'd say high B.
B plus.
There you go. So that's where we are. So I'm happy to have you on board to help us out. The Scream. I actually want to get your outlook on Scream.
Scream, personally, for me, I think that's an S tier.
Wow.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely S tier. Here's the thing. With a lot of franchises, the other question that you need to ask yourself with as well is how many of them, not only like, we look at them as like, how many of them kind of go down in quality more often than not? But with the Scream franchise, how often do they still stay consistent? How often do we go, you know what? We didn't really necessarily like the third one as much as the second one, but it's still a good movie. Or and vice versa with 4. We didn't necessarily like 4 as much as we like 2 or 3, but we wouldn't call that a terrible movie at all. Like, that one still stays relatively consistent all the way through. And also just the gimmick of it's a different person every time, so there's the horror mystery aspect to it. For me, Ghostface is most definitely an S tier for myself.
I did argue against it a little bit. I put it at the A tier. I argued against it being that Ghostface is not it's hard to have an iconic character because it's not the same character. It's a costume. It's an idea. So that drew it down a little bit for me. I love the first film. I love the second film. I thought the third and fourth were a little tired to me a little bit. It was good. It was solid. It was okay. I mean, I'd rank it okay to good. I had a hard time putting S tier above other things that are going to be there. It's definitely a little bit my age, though. I did say that it did revitalize the genre in the 90s. All right, you know what? For now, I'm willing to slide it up to A, to there for now.
Boy.
I think part of the argument why we had it on A is because we also knew that we were going to be getting to Michael, Jason, and Freddy.
So
and
it might come down.
They're very likely going to go straight to the S tier, which, if you see Michael right now,
so
good argument.
So what I'll say is that one of the reasons I'm going to put up the S tier is I probably know you probably will be bumped back down to the A tier later. But Austin, as Austin knows, from our last thing, this is the Mick Foley of our list, so maybe he will stay on S tier. We don't know. All right, then let's move on. Oh wait, so the rest of the thing, Leatherface has S tier, Psycho, and then what do you think? Halloween or Psycho? Which is your number one at this point?
My number one would definitely be Halloween. Like, I think Psycho is an amazing film. It's definitely what said. I mean, without Psycho, we wouldn't have a lot of things that we would have today. So there's always a credit to it. But personally, for me, Halloween is the one that I've watched the most, and it's also the one I go back to the most. But Psycho is an indelible classic. Like, yeah, absolutely, it belongs in the S tier. But it's really a case of preference more than anything else with that. But Halloween is Michael Myers. He
is the man.
If you were in a dark alley with those two, who would you be more scared of?
Oh, Michael Myers.
Exactly. Like, that's why for me, he goes right to the top. Like, if I saw those two, anyone in that S tier, if I was walking down an alley and I see the 4 of them coming towards me, Michael would scare the crap out of me because he's fucking huge.
Okay. And here's my argument for that, though, too. And, like, okay, see him down the street. Yeah, you're going to be more scared of Michael. As a woman who goes places by herself, I am way more likely to be murdered by someone like Norman Bates than I am someone like Michael Myers. So, like, to me, that realism makes him scarier because that could happen to me. Yeah. If that makes sense.
This depends, though. Are you related to Michael Myers? That's
jeez.
That's a good point.
As far as I know, no. So I'm saying,
Kelsey, also knowing your Tinder profile, you're much more likely to get murdered by the Terrifier than
Actually.
I thought Kelsey has a thing for clowns.
I said I wouldn't swipe right necessarily the Terrifier guy, but I would look at his profile and read it, just like see what we have in common, and like and then I decide. So
I know, Andres, you were back in the background when we were talking about the Halloween franchise. Anything else to add to the franchise aspect of it? Anything else you want to add about the rest of the saga?
No, I think it's an interesting direction where they're going with right now, but I will definitely say that that I think it's not necessarily that the thorn or the ritual aspect in 5 was bad. I just think they never paid it off, so we looked at it as bad. But in actual reality, they just kind of dropped it. So.
Because it was bad.
I couldn't make it look good.
That franchise was in trouble for the longest time. I mean, like, how long was it between
6 and 7? Curse and H2O?
Yeah, 6 and 7. I mean, it was 2 years, but by that point, like, the producers were just kind of just in a really bad place, and they were just like, reboot it because it's not working right now. But yeah. Also,
what was that?
I do like H2O. I hate Resurrection.
Resurrection might be my least favorite of the franchise, actually, honestly. But that's saying something.
I don't know if I've actually ever finished Resurrection. I think I started watching and I just turned it off and continued living my life.
It totally
Don't worry about it. Just watch the first one.
It's totally fucked over.
For me, that's the one you need to watch.
Jamie Lee Curtis's whole character, like, it was just like, why? But either way, all right. Let's move on now. Got a minute here.
If I could do a quick plug, though, Cinefanatics will be doing a live watch along of the original Halloween on Halloween.
Oh, very nice.
And it's going to be public. It's not going to be on our Patreon. So.
Thanks, Ferris. Ferris. I appreciate that always. I love you, Ferris.
I may have to watch that, Robert. Okay, yeah.
And
I know what I'm doing on Halloween night.
My brother will be watching it also, and he doesn't like horror movies.
I can't wait to see his live reaction.
He's never seen it, so.
Okay. I love you, Robert. I will not be watching him.
Moving on to Pennywise.
I would type right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, you would.
Gotta grab my next Funko Pop.
Now, you talk about franchise does have the miniseries from the, I want to say 90?
Yeah,
90. In there, somewhere in there, and it has the successful 2 films from recent. The first one was pretty universally well liked. The second one, not as well liked, but I think it still made some. It was still a solid film overall.
I liked it. I didn't love it the way I did the first, but I liked it.
I think there's not enough of it to make it high up into the iconic characters or iconic films. It's just one complete story. It makes it suffer compared to the franchise aspect of it. But Pennywise himself is very iconic with the red balloons, and they all float here. So my initial instinct is somewhere around this level. I could even see it argue up to be under, like the low A. But that's my initial thought, is somewhere around here. But I'll open it up to the panel and see what they have to say.
Once again, why are we grouping all the Stephen King characters together?
All right, I gotta go. So you guys enjoy the rest.
All right, Buck, take care, man.
There, man.
So let's see. I don't know. What do you guys think about where Pennywise should be? Is he higher? Is he lower? Is he good in the B tier?
I think Pennywise, again, as the character himself, I think that B tier is probably a good sweet spot for him because, again, it's more quality over quantity at this point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's easily recognizable, especially in today's moniker. Whenever you see a red balloon anywhere, you are...
Something around. Sorry.
Yeah, but like it's one of those things where it's so iconic. Where in our vernacular as a culture, if you see a red balloon out in public anywhere, oh my God, Pennywise is out there or something like that. Like one of my buddies.
Yeah, whatever. I think of the Nina song, Line 99.
German or American? There you go.
I mean the American, so I can sing along with it.
All right. No, you're absolutely right though, Nana. It's and that's kind of what I was saying too. It's quality over quantity at this point. I think it's in its sweet spot. We are grouping the Stephen King characters together, but what about let's argue just real briefly Pennywise versus Pinhead.
I'd put Pennywise above Pinhead. I mean, my kids know who Pennywise is. They don't know who anybody on this screen is, but they know who Pennywise the clown is. So it transcends generations. Even people who haven't actually, my kids have seen it, but even before they had seen any of the it stuff, they knew who Pennywise was. I would put him B tier, but ahead of Pinhead. That's right.
Okay.
I would argue the same thing. Pennywise is more in the knowledge than Pinhead.
So the reason for that is because the original It movie was a made-for-TV movie, so therefore it was more approachable than Hellraiser was.
Yep.
And if y'all have gone back and watched the made-for-TV movie, it's definitely a made-for-TV movie. There's nothing really to it. It's not scary at all.
It's a cult classic, and when I saw it at 6 or however old I was, it was scary at that time.
Yeah. So,
it's probably what triggered my clown thing.
I was on CBS. Let's put it that way. It was on.
I
CBS.
remember as a kid seeing the TV guide with the ad for it in it, and I remember even just the ad for it was spooky. And I remember going to school the next day, and the kids that were brave enough to watch it, whose parents were awesome, because mine weren't. They were like, this was the scariest movie ever. Now, as I grew up, I was like, okay, it was a made-for-TV movie. How scary could it be? I watched it, and I was like, not scary at all. The newer one, the 2017 Chapter 1, was really good.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. When I go to a movie, especially in the theater, it takes a lot to make me jump. And there was a couple of times in there I was like, okay, this is doing a very good job. When Pennywise pops out of the wall during the projector scene.
Yes.
That was insane.
I nearly peed my pants.
I think they've done a very good job with Pennywise, at least in that Chapter 1. I agree, Chapter 2, not so good. But I would say Pennywise maybe just under. I would definitely put Pennywise where we have him right now over Carrie and Annie, Candyman. I would still probably keep him under Pinhead because in horror movies as a whole, Pinhead is still the more iconic character in the long run. Again, because Hellraiser has had a lot more movies.
I will defer in terms of, to Jerry's point, I will say that probably in the general public knowledge, Pennywise is more iconic than Pinhead.
Now that I think about it, though, the reason I say that is maybe only because it has had a new movie in the past 3-4 years
in the theater movie. Yeah,
in the theater.
Hellraiser hasn't had a movie in the theaters, I don't think. And
it's about to, because they are gonna. There is a Hellraiser remake coming out, so
that could change like that.
I'll believe it when I see it, but
yeah,
at this point. But yeah, that's true. So I guess where we were arguing that we're gonna get really petty if we start arguing at this point. I think I could leave it like this for now. Maybe we'll come back to it if we decide to have a flash later on. We decide to come back and argue it. Seems like at least we're in the right ballpark. So, Babadook, not a franchise, but a singularly well-known film that came out that kind of went beyond the horror genre, so to speak. Like a lot of people, I remember hearing a lot of people who I don't talk with horror about heard of it and were interested in it. I never really heard back what they did or not. But I can't personally see putting it up very high. It's a good, solid horror movie.
Yeah. I hate this movie.
You hate
I haven't seen it.
I despise this movie.
Really? Okay, that's interesting.
I kind of have to go with Austin on this one. I mean, not necessarily that. I mean, it was one of those that was so hyped up for me for a couple of months, and then when I finally saw it, I'm like, "That's it." I mean, it's good, but it's just.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's just kind of like there's not really a set of rules, or for lack of a better word, verisimilitude for that character in particular. It's just, honestly, at the end of the day, it's just depression.
I did see this before the hype. I will admit, I saw it. I kind of like came across it on Netflix and just I had never heard of it, and I saw it. So that might have been what I would rank it a little higher myself. But I think Kelsey, did you watch this one?
I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, well,
It's on my
Jerry?
list of things to see, but I haven't seen it.
Never even heard of this.
You heard of it? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna let Robert finish us off with this one, but I'm gonna say I think it's probably, honestly, if I had to say, it's probably down here in terms of iconicness. It's a good movie.
I think it should be excluded because they killed the dog.
If they kill the dog, screw this movie.
I actually think it was. I think it was good where it was, like right above Invisible Man, only because there's just so much strong word of mouth for the Babadook in popular culture now. Granted, while the Invisible Man movie came out this year or so, has been doing very well. The Babadook is a stronger horror movie in terms of what people are recollecting. So,
the Babadook. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, and to your point on that as well too. Babadook, I feel, has had a big resurgence as of late as well too. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys saw the big hashtags with the gay community, where it's basically just it's another parable for that side, and it was something that inadvertently does make sense. And even the director had come out and said, "Yeah, you can look at it as whatever you want as well too." So yeah.
That's very true, and that's good for the culture, I guess. I mean, although I would argue back again, though, as far as Invisible Man goes, not only does Invisible Man have a current movie that has done very well, it does have that iconicness of a character. It does have that character that's been in multiple movies, good or bad. It's definitely a universal monster. You kind of have that respect on the Invisible Man versus Babadook, which is a one film, no wonder. So, I mean, I think if I've got to go, I'm putting it there.
I would also put it there as well too, because if you see someone bandaged up wearing sunglasses, you automatically go to the Invisible Man, even if you've never seen it before. It's just a part of the vernacular in terms of pop culture. And I was watching Marriage Story not too long ago, and even just my ex at the time is not a fan of horror, and she's like, "Oh, Adam Driver's dressed up as the Invisible Man." So there is kind of something to be said where people can recognize that vocabulary of character right off the bat.
I'm good with that, because Babadook, I'm pretty sure nobody recognizes Babadook if you didn't see the movie. So, all right, I'll go there. I love Chris Adam. All right, moving on. Samara and the Ring.
This movie hit me at a time where this is like one of the ones I first saw when I was getting into horror. So it's nostalgia. I have a lot of stuff for it, but in comparison to a lot of the other movies on this list, I'd much rather watch a lot of other movies on this list than rewatch the Ring movies.
Jerry, I'm curious what you say about the Ring.
I've actually seen this one. It's creepy.
Okay.
Very creepy.
I agree with that.
Honestly, I don't know if I'd have seen it if my girlfriend hadn't made me watch it. And I didn't really heard much about it besides that. But I guess she was a big fan. So I don't know, honestly.
Okay. All right. Austin, I want to hear your thought on this.
This is where I feel like there's going to be a real disconnect between older and younger horror fans, because I feel like modern horror fans would rank this a lot higher. I feel like it was well loved at the time, and I feel like it's somewhat well liked now, but I wouldn't go anything above low A.
Okay. All right. Robert.
I hate the Ring. Like the concept that the movie started with was fantastic. You watch a tape and 7 days later you die. Great concept. And then it went off into this whole like background investigation, just like, oh my God, I'm so bored as to what is going to happen in this movie. But
Samara doesn't have the same ring to it.
No. Same ring to it. Get it. Got it. But this movie has been huge in pop culture. This might be another one of those that might be more easily approachable for those who don't commonly like horror movies, in so much that it's more of a thriller than it really is of a horror. There's a couple of shocking images of someone's face being like warped by Photoshop, but that's about it. And then Samara crawling out of the TV is just creepy as hell.
All right, Andres, what do you got to say?
I would say the character itself is great, and I feel that you go from a high of a movie. I mean, personally, for me, I love the first movie, and the first movie is one of those that it's literally a playbook on how to adapt foreign language horror into an American context, because they changed up just enough that it was still The Ring, but just enough to make it relatable to our audience here. However, with that being said, the second film just felt like it just dove off a cliff, and I tried to watch Rings 4 times. 3 of those I saw I went to 3 different test screenings and kept falling asleep. And then when it finally came out, I still to this day have not finished it. So that's something to be said right then and there.
All right.
And for anybody that goes, oh, well, if you were going to a movie and if you were going to see Rings 3 times, why would you keep going? I was like, first off, whenever you go to these test screenings, you never know what you're going to see. They don't announce it until you sit down.
Fair. Okay.
So, yeah, Samara is great as a character, but one fantastic movie doesn't make you an A-lister. I would say she's definitely a B character right there.
I would actually say I don't know if she has one fantastic movie. I would say that she has one good movie.
First half of a first movie.
I love the thing is I have a very different take on this in terms of I feel like this movie is very hard for me to judge because the atmosphere is damn good. They do a very good job with the atmosphere of the movie. And there's definitely some creepy moments in there. A lot of creepy moments. And Samara herself is a creepy character. Creepy as fuck. I love it. I love her that thing. But at the same time, there's something about the setup that just like, all right, so you're telling me this ghost is attached to a VCR tape, and like you watch a movie, and then you're gonna die. It just the whole thing of committing the spirituality to the technical aspect of the technology and things like that. It just was a hard concept for me to really commit to either way. It didn't work for me that way, to be honest with you. But Samara, I can understand why, like Austin said, it's a younger person's game, so to speak. Because I do, for some reason, it is iconic. Like, it is something that people bring up and talk about when it comes to horror movies. They're like, oh, the ring. For some reason, it made its way up the echelon of pop culture. And I don't know, I'm not sure why. These other movies that I thought were better that deserved more attention. I gotta put her somewhere. Maybe I'll split up the Stephen King characters though.
You're gonna split up that group.
Split up the group. I'll split up the holy trio we have going on right now. I'd put her somewhere around there because I think Carrie's more iconic than Samara is. So, but I don't know. Does that sound okay to everybody else? I mean, Austin, you were saying low A. I don't know.
I'm fine with it right there. She never upgraded the DVD or Blu-ray, so
well, that's what made her scary. Is no one knows what a VHS is.
Something that how you were saying, PLD, that the whole technology aspect kind of didn't work. Whereas from everything that I've gathered, one of my exes was a huge fan of The Ring, and apparently there was a set of novels that actually say that the spirit of Samara has been around since the 1800s and is transferred into all these various different forms of visual stimuli. And that's where the curse is born from. So no matter what happens, it either can be a painting, a photo, or it could be a VHS. Like it basically... Samara is timeless in that sense. So I do get where you're coming from with that, but in terms of just looking at it as only the Gorbinski, Ju-on Ring stuff, yeah, absolutely. That kind of doesn't make too much sense. But yeah, no, that was kind of the one thing that kind of held me up on the series at first as well. But it's just one of those. It's just one of those things. I know, fun fact, I guess.
Oh, I get that. It's cool, man. I agree. Okay. I guess Malcolm is saying that Candyman and Annie are more iconic than Samara. Potentially.
I wouldn't say that.
I could maybe say that. Well,
it depends on your level. How much do you connect with these horror movies? Because, like, I've been in love with Misery way longer than, like, before even The Ring came out, before Ringu came out.
Right.
And, like, to me, Annie Wilkes is more iconic than Samara. But, again, it's a matter of, like, at what age did you start watching horror movies? And, like, The Ring had that whole, like, high school dare factor behind it. Like, this movie was scary, I dare you to go see it. Oh, I'll go see it. And then, like, group of high schoolers all went together and all shit their pants over it or whatnot. So,
right.
And then they called each other for every night that week. That's 7 days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, and to that extent as well too. Even Candyman has that sort of similar factor where it's like, oh, I dare you to say Candyman 3 times into a mirror type of thing. I think it's more of a generational thing more than anything else.
Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, so I guess I'll keep it here for now, and maybe we'll change our minds later on. All right.
We have 6 in the B tier.
Oh, we do. That means Candyman has to drop down. Austin, you are definitely my go-to man at this point. You're my wingman at this. You keep me in line. I love it. Thanks, Austin. All right, so we'll
replaced me.
No, you're a different kind of engineer. You can have 2 different kind of engineers. You're my Austin's kind of my. I don't know. I'll make up some kind of title later on. We'll work.
As long as it's not Bagel Boy, I don't care.
I already gave that name to somebody. I won't name somebody else that either. Okay. I'll move down to Hannibal Lecter and Silence of the Lambs.
I'm going to go right off the bat and say that this movie needs to be excluded. Only because, for all intents and purposes, if y'all think about it, this actually isn't a horror movie. It's a crime thriller.
That's exactly what I would say.
And I was actually going to argue the same point. I was actually thinking about arguing the same point. I mean, although I will say there is an argument to be made that even though it's a crime thriller, the character of Hannibal Lecter himself has kind of become an iconic horror character, which is weird in a way. It's like, how can you have a horror iconic character that's not in a horror movie? But yet, isn't he listed among those when you think about it?
As horror?
Well, he definitely
the movie is still categorized in general as horror, and it's definitely regarded as the first horror movie to win the Best Picture Oscar.
But more specifically, Hannibal Lecter as a character.
Oh yeah, he's creepy as all get out.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of a strange thing. So can we officially exclude it? Or should we not?
This would be one I'd probably exclude it for right now, and then let's come back to it when we're done with the rest of the list to see, like, in comparison, do we then reconsider him as a part of horror, and where would we potentially put him in regards to everyone else who is blatantly, obviously, a horror icon?
Okay.
IMDb has it as a crime drama thriller.
Interesting. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, so
IMDb is always right.
That's right.
Okay.
Always.
Especially if Video Drew is arguing it.
That's one of the more interesting challenges I've ever seen, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will do this then. We will put that there. As long as no one else has any objection, we may come back to it.
Fine.
You fine with that? Okay. All right. I do have our guest coming on soon. As soon as he's ready, I'll just give me a thumbs up or whatever. He's going to come and tell us our list sucks. That's just
Ferris, yeah.
There comes Ferris.
He's going to come in. So he did last time. He came into wrestling when we shook it all up. Let's move on for now, though. We got Chucky.
Also, not a horror movie. That is an elongated My Buddy commercial.
I had a My Buddy. I loved My Buddy when I was young.
So did I.
My buddy, wherever I go, he goes. My buddy and me.
Chucky is the franchise that really shouldn't work. Like you look at it on paper, you're like, "What the fuck? You got the kids? That's my buddy is killing you."
Here's the thing. Overall,
me?
other than Seed of Chucky, the rest of the movies really aren't that bad.
They're not.
They're really good.
They're not
fun.
bad.
And it's also until the remake came out, it was also the only franchise that was consistently written by the same guy.
Yeah.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, Don Mancini wrote the first film, and he stuck on board. He's even doing he's even showrunning the Chucky series right now.
That's right. I remember hearing that as well. So he really is an iconic character and a consistently long term. And he over the years has been. I mean, when was the first film? The first one was what, 80, 89?
Not 88.
88. All right. So having that be there, 2007. It's never been too long without a Child's Play movie. And they're all great. So I can't. It's kind of. It shouldn't work. It shouldn't be iconic. But I don't know why you could argue it's not.
Because Chucky is the epitome of the evil kid's plaything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The toy.
Yeah, it's the talking Tina aspect, but taken to what if we made him a full-fledged character, and also what if we just gave him a potty mouth to begin with? Like, fantastic. I mean, I would even argue he's high A, low S for myself. But
I'd have him high A.
Okay.
I would
can't put him in S. I can't put him S. I would never. I don't think I could put him S. But I don't know. What do you think, Robert?
I'd put him above Pazuzu.
That's
where I'd put him too.
He is more
high.
Yep.
He is more iconic than Pazuzu. You again going back to what we did earlier on here. Y'all all saw the picture of Pazuzu and had no idea who it was. We all know who Chucky is.
I mean, like Ready Player One, one of my favorite moments in the movie is the Chucky moment. Fucking Chucky.
Love that line.
It's like my favorite part of that movie.
So good.
Oh wait, yeah, I'm not on Cinefanatics. I can say that.
You're good.
I gotta clip that out for Jake. That's Jake's lifelong dream is getting.
Did you say fuck that movie?
He said fucking Chucky.
Oh,
fucking Chucky.
Now we get Chris to say it. It's even double. That'd be better. Get Chris both to say it. That's the goal. I do. I'll leave it there for now. I can go with that, I guess, for now. I haven't watched a lot of the Chucky movies in a long time, but it is iconic enough to be up there. All right, we'll move on for now.
It's available on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Definitely recommend Curse of Chucky, and Cult of Chucky was kind of stupid, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right, who we got here?
That's Sam from
Sam.
Trick or Treat.
Yeah. I don't know much about this. I only saw the movie once, and I can't really remember a whole lot of it.
Sam, I would almost want to put in the same category as Art the Clown, just because he comes from an anthology movie. Again, that was completely based. Every story in the anthology was based around him. I would probably move him a little bit further up than Art the Clown, though, only because I hear more people talk about Trick or Treat than I do All Hallows Eve or Terrifier.
And honestly, I would actually say put him even a little above Babadook, actually, because, I mean, it's become kind of part of that vernacular where, what are you going to be watching for Halloween this year? Oh, I'm going to watch Trick or Treat. Like, that was... It's popular enough it's popular enough, and it's also been around for over 10 years. So I think it's got a little more recognition to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And then also I walked into a Target and there were literally Trick or Treat figures from freaking NECA all over the place. I was like, holy crap. All right. Well, it's definitely mainstream now.
All right. Like I said, Ferris has dropped off and he's having problems with his charger. I don't know if he's actually going to make it. Unfortunately, I don't know. We'll have to find out. If he can, do it.
Just say, Paul, I've heard of Trick or Treat. I've never heard of Babadook or the other one that he just said. I don't remember his name. Okay. Trick or Treat, the character, I don't know, but the actual movie, it's around a lot.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I'll put it there for now. What about? Just hit me up here. Invisible Man or Candyman? Anything higher than that? You think, or is he good there? You think?
I think he's good right there.
Right there?
Yeah.
I'll go with that. Again, I'm going to defer to you guys now. Like I said, I've only seen it once. I should watch it again. I did like it. I just don't have much memory of it. All right, Captain Spaulding. Rob Zombie.
House of 1,000 Corpses. The problem with this franchise is only the first one I would consider a horror movie, and it's more of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre knockoff.
Right.
Devil's Rejects is a crime movie, and let's not talk about Three from Hell.
I actually haven't even seen that one yet, to be honest with you.
Just skip it. Yeah.
Oh man,
I love Sid Haig. I love Sid Haig, though, man. I do love
Yeah.
Dude, and that's the thing that I'm torn apart with this one right now. Is I love Sig Haig. He was a nice guy when I met him over at a convention, and rest in peace, man. But oh man, this is a tough one because I feel that he is someone that Captain Spaulding is someone that is in the vernacular of horror, but is he in the same category? Is he above Candyman? Is he above some of these more well-known ones? Like I would even say he's kind of just a little tiny above Babadook, actually.
That's actually what I was like. Yeah, it's definitely in there.
Jerry, have you ever heard of this guy?
No, not even anywhere near.
Have you ever heard of a House of 1,000 Corpses?
Nope.
It's Rob Zombie's first feature film.
Yeah, Rob Zombie's first. You know Robert Zombie? You know who Rob Zombie is?
Nope.
White Zombie.
Really? You don't even know who Rob Zombie is, man.
The band White Zombie.
Nope.
Okay. Don't change, Jerry. I love
more
you.
Human than human. Yeah.
The voice of the lizard in the MTV Spider-Man series.
Oh, now you're really going deep with that one.
I will say, I'll agree. I'll put it there. I think he's more cult than anything else. There's a cult of people who love him, but I think overall, iconic-wise, he's down about that level. The funny thing is, he does have a very dedicated fan base, kind of thing. I feel like there's people who would come and go, "Oh my god, how can you not have him higher?" But I can see him there as being it.
That's what I say.
We gotta move Art the Clown down.
Oh,
yeah.
This is why I pay Austin the big bucks here.
That's what I say. Again,
I'm gonna give you a raise. I'm gonna give you a raise, a 10 times raise that I pay you now.
10 times 0 is 0.
That's right. See, that's why I pay. He's my man.
House of 1,000 Corpses really does. It feels like it's a ripoff of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's the same idea. Teenage kids happen to stumble upon a house that they shouldn't be stumbling upon. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But Captain Spaulding was an iconic character in that movie.
Fair enough, Malcolm. Fair enough. All right. Okay, who we got here? We got
that's the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
That's
D.
Okay.
Just go straight D. Bottom of D.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Andres? I'm kind of interested what you have to say about that.
See, I love the Creature from the Black Lagoon film, but I would not say it's something that has stuck around nearly as well 50 or 60 years later. I would probably say the only reason why we would know him a little more today is because of Guillermo del Toro and Shape of Water. But as far as an icon of horror, personally for me, I'm going to be more afraid of going into the water. I mean, if I was to go swimming, I'd be more afraid of Jaws than I am of the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
What about Piranha?
Oh god! Oh man! As long as they're not flying, I'm okay.
All right, I'm willing to put him there. I don't need to talk about him too much. I mean, I think he's more known for the title than anything else.
Yeah.
So, all right. Here's a big one. This is a big one.
S.
Straight to S.
S.
The question is, where on S? Is it
above Norman Bates.
Easily.
I have to be honest with you. For me personally, I love Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger was my first horror film I've ever watched, ever fell in love with. I loved Robert Englund. First of all, I loved Robert Englund when he was in V, which is my sci-fi show. That's the only other show I do on this channel right now is my watch through of V, and partially because of Robert Englund. Robert Englund's character is so menacing in the first film, so nightmarish in the first film, but then he turns into this you amp him up for the rest of the films, and it becomes this iconic one-liner, funny ass demonic, like in so many different ways, shapes, or forms. Even the bad films, I still love because of Robert Englund. I can watch them even because Robert Englund, just because Robert Englund's in them. And who doesn't know the guy with the finger knives? You know, it's so iconic. The one knock on Michael Myers is that he is more a. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's saying this as a knock is too strong. But the potential knock is that he is more of a funnel for the audience fear. He's not a character; he's a shape. You know, it's horrifying, and it's what you put into it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm still not arguing he's below S tier, so I know how to try to not to say anything bad about it. But Freddy, to me, is a better character to watch and more fun character to watch overall. I don't know. Convince me otherwise. Convince me why I should keep Michael Myers above Freddy.
Honestly, I can see both. It's just a case of preference, but I mean, Freddy Krueger is as iconic to horror as Michael Myers is. It's just a case of whether or not, like they're both two different flavors of jam. Essentially, at the end of the day, one of them is great in a certain sense, and the other one is just great. It's just, you know, you're going for the more strongman and the ethereal killer more than anything else. Whereas you have a character that not only invades you personally, but also invades your dreams. That is something where you feel even less helpless than you would in a dark alleyway with Michael Myers. So yeah, I mean, if you face Freddy Krueger in a dark alleyway, first off, you see Freddy Krueger, you're automatically screwed. So
because you're probably asleep.
Yeah, that's true.
exactly.
All right, Kelsey, what's your thoughts immediately?
Honestly, in my list, he would be behind Norman Bates, but I know that's because. But I just love Norman Bates. Like, I love Psycho. But I can see the argument for him being the first on the list. I do understand that, so I'm not gonna argue against that. I'm just saying personally, I would rather watch Psycho than a Nightmare movie.
Okay, Jerry, what do you have to say? I'm interested in your point.
Honestly, this is where I'm pretty much tapped out. There's three iconic, there's no way, and he's one of them.
Okay.
So after that, I don't know much more, but he's definitely top three for me in all of them.
All right, Austin.
I'm kind of right there with Jerry a little bit. To me, it's more a difference of, is your preference psychological horror or is it physical slasher horror?
Okay.
And to me, Michael Myers and Jason are kind of similar in that same way.
We're gonna get there. Yeah.
I would probably put Freddy. Overall, I think Freddy will end up being second, but right now I'm fine with him being first.
All right, here we go. Robert, it's up to you, man. Let's see what you have to say.
So it comes down to, like he was just saying, Michael Myers and Jason are pretty similar in that they're both silent killers. They don't talk. Easily, I think we would all agree that Jason, Michael, and Freddy are probably the top three of this entire list. I mean, at this point, we probably could quickly go down, grab Jason, and throw him up here as well.
That'd be too easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down between those three at the very top tier.
You know what?
Of this list. The thing is so what do you find horrifying? Is it scary, the fact that you got these two characters that don't talk? They're just endlessly brutal? Or you got this one that will talk to you. This character will interact with you and still kill you, and you have to be asleep. So you have nowhere to run. You have nowhere to hide. You're asleep. He's coming after you.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is more scary and therefore more iconic? At least you could potentially get away from Michael and Jason at some point. You really can't get away from Freddy, and he'll let you know that.
He'll toy with you on that. Okay, so
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, and going on with that as well too, one of the more horrifying things about Freddy Krueger is that no matter what happens in a Freddy film, you had to fall asleep. And there's something oddly terrifying and creepy about the fact that Freddy Krueger, he's not constantly going after you. He's actually the other guy on the side, on the other veil of sleep and awake, that's patiently waiting for you. That no matter what happens, he's just gonna be there. And there's something oddly horrifying about that. That there's no way you can outrun him. There's no way you can drink all this coffee or keep yourself awake. You're gonna have to face him. He's unstoppable. At least with Freddy and Jason. Sorry, at least with Michael Myers and Jason. And most of these other characters as well, you could probably get away. But Freddy, he's always with you.
Not only can you knock it away, but he can literally bring your worst nightmares to life, because he can make whatever he wants to have happen in that movie, and then you're sucked to his whims, basically. So as I say, dick on the table. Kelsey, you're the first one with the dick on the table. What do you say, Freddy? Would you Freddy or Michael? Who would you say as far as that go? I know your thoughts of Norman Bates' side.
Yeah, so just going between those two, like I kind of said when we were talking about Michael Myers, is that I like the idea of we don't know anything about this character. That kind of gets messed up a little bit later, but like he's just there. Freddy, we get like immediately get his whole backstory. Like, well, he's did all blah, blah, blah. So like everything about him, and that makes him less scary than just like this ominous presence that is for some reason coming after you. You don't know why, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I think Michael Myers is scarier in that sense to me than Freddy is. But,
okay, so you would
but I also get the art. I probably would put Michael first, but I do totally get the arguments of having him second, and I wouldn't argue against that. But for me, that's more scary, is just not knowing what's coming after me. Okay, I like knowing. So,
Jerry, 1 or 2, Freddy or Michael?
Freddy.
Freddy. Austin.
Freddy.
Andreas.
Freddy or Michael? Freddy.
And Robert.
Freddy.
Okay. Real done deal. I agree with that. I like that. I'm glad I actually thought I was going to have to fight more for that, to be honest with you, because I'm used to a lot of people who put Freddy a little lower, and I love Freddy. So I'm glad you're seeing this my way as well. Let's talk to the other one now. I already put him up there. He was obviously S tier as well, though. Jason. So the fight goes is A for Kelsey. Would you say Jason is more than Norman Bates first? I'm going to see personally. You're still going Norman Bates over Jason, correct?
Me? Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately,
I figure I'll lose on that, but
okay. So it comes down to, since we did put Freddy first, it's between Jason and Michael Myers. Now, I will say that Jason and Michael do have very similarities. Again, like we were saying, they're basically shapes and silent killers. Michael is definitely more grounded, if you can call it that. I mean, there's definitely some supernatural stuff. You have the cult and so like that. But overall, at the end of the day, despite him being superhuman, comparatively to Jason, he's a much more grounded horror character. Jason goes all over the place. I mean, they try to make him grounded. He's grounded at first, but it's actually not even Jason. It's his mother, obviously, in the first film.
That's what I was going to say. The argument we had earlier about Ghostface, I feel slightly applies to Jason, because he technically isn't.
Well, it's only the one film, though. It's the one film, but it is the original film, which is interesting about it. That's the interesting point about it. But go ahead.
Oh, sorry. But the thing is that Jason has transcended that first film to where anytime you think of Friday the 13th, you don't even think of the burlap sack. You think of the hockey mask right then and there. It's become something that's indelible in pop culture, and he's a slasher. Like, I was afraid of I literally remember being at a sporting goods store with my cousins and seeing a hockey mask up there, and it's like this. Like, for some reason it's still creeping me out.
I get it. That's awesome to hear, though. Okay. Jason, I was saying Jason does go all over the place. Obviously, we have one of my favorite movies. Honestly, it's Andres and I were talking about the other day. Jason X, Jason in space. You have a fucking Jason where he's in space, and I love that film for exactly what it is. It's fun. It's superhero. It's a super villain in space story. You can do a lot with. They do a lot with that story, with that character in terms of that. You also have the idea that you have Freddy versus Jason. Another one of my favorite movies. That was a great gladiator-style comic book mashup, and it was fun as fuck. I gotta tell you, it was fun as hell.
And I want to use that as like my basis for the reason that Jason should be above Michael Myers.
Okay.
They chose to have two horror icons go against each other, and they chose Freddy and Jason.
That's true. That is very true.
Absolutely. And the other thing I would say that Jason has over Michael Myers is that Michael Myers consistently has the same type of horror film. Whereas with Jason, we have the camp slasher film with the first couple of films, and then all of a sudden we have the gothic horror comedy with Jason Lives, and then we've got Carrie versus Jason at one point.
Right?
Yeah, and then we have the film where he goes body hopping at one point. And again, like you're saying, Jason in space. I mean, there's so many different flavors to choose with Jason that I feel it's personally for me a much stronger franchise than Halloween is. And that's not counting the characters. Like, again, certain people will be like, oh, well, Jason is actually just a big ripoff of Michael Myers. And it's true, absolutely. But I think in terms of the variety you get with Jason, I think that's what puts him above Michael Myers.
I happen to agree. And Robert, I know you're chomping at the bit. One more thing I'll say is that the original Halloween is better than the original Friday the 13th.
Yes.
So, man, does Jason know who he is? They know who Jason is. And that's why, to me, Jason gets the nod. Robert, tear us to shreds and tell us. I can almost tell that you got to put Michael Myers back on top. But let's hear what you have to say.
So Michael Myers came essentially, they really didn't touch upon too much of it in the original movies. It was more of like, I guess, the Rob Zombie movies where they're saying like, this is a kid from a broken household type of thing. Mm-hmm. And he had just all kinds of mental issues that made him, it really paints people with mental issues in a bad light, but
it's kind of,
because of that, that's why he went crazy and psycho. And then later on in the Halloween movies, it's more, they said, oh, no, it's because of this like whole cult thorn thing. Okay. The entire time, Friday the 13th, Jason is killing people just because they killed his mom.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only reason for Jason's existence is they killed his mom. Yeah. So I completely agree. Jason is higher than Malcolm. Jason is higher than Michael. Sorry, Malcolm.
All right. I'm glad.
I vote Malcolm higher.
Malcolm. All right. Oh, okay. Well, I'm actually happily surprised, Robert. I don't know why I thought otherwise. I just saw a glimmer in your eye that made me think that you were going to go the other way.
I'm not going to be able to get my brother to watch the original Friday the 13th. So,
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, I agree with that. All right, let's the bottom three now. We got Leprechaun.
Oh, good Lord. let's keep in mind before ranking him, he did visit the hood.
That's true.
Twice.
And he was in space.
And he was in space.
I don't even know about this one, to be honest with you. It's such a weird. I love Warwick Davis. Don't get me wrong, that's for sure. I love Warwick Davis. There's something that is eminently watchable about these movies. Now, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's because I'm
a stupid concept.
I think that's what it is, and I'm usually pretty drunk when I watch it. Maybe that helps.
Oh God, yeah. Because where I watch this movie at least every St. Patrick's Day or so. The thing is, I used to do a podcast with my buddies Matt and Adam, and we were it was called the Killer Horror Podcast. And what we did was we actually did a watch along where every single time we saw the film and we said the word leprechaun, we would have to take a shot. So you can imagine just how plastered we were at the end of every single film, and got all the way up to Leprechaun in space, and it was just. It's all a big blur of like lightsabers and the Leprechaun using blasters, and it's so freaking terrible. But
it is terrible,
Leprechaun. But I think ultimately he's either high D or low C for me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I personally would put him above Captain Spaulding and move Babadook down to tier D.
Yeah.
Okay, Jerry, what do you think? Do you know anything about Leprechaun?
I've heard the name. That's literally it. I didn't even know Warwick Davis was in it, and that was something I should know.
I was about to say Wicked. Yeah, you should know Wicked. Come on.
I should have known that, and I didn't even know that.
I would argue. I'll let Robert have his piece. I know Robert seems to be our closer here at this point. Going back to Robert's close. My initial argument, my thought process is, I almost want to do this because he is a character that's talked about more than Candyman is. I think. I mean, I can see the argument both ways. Let's put it that way. I think it'd be an idea of the character being more iconic than the movie by far. But I don't know. I can be convinced otherwise. Robert, close me out here. What are you going to say?
I kind of think Leprechaun is good where he's at, but I think he definitely ranks higher than the Keurig Mini K brewer that you got over there on the left side.
I'll definitely give you that.
I feel like this PLD Projects episode has been brought to you by Keurig here. Which, I mean, if this episode keeps going any longer, we're probably going to need some coffee.
Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep.
Yeah. Otherwise, the person at the top of the S tier is going to come after you. I believe he's in a good position where he's at right now. Leprechaun is definitely iconic. Might not be iconic for the best of reasons, because I think most people recommend his movies as a complete joke.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he's been to the hood twice.
Back to the hoods, right? Jesus.
Yeah.
He's also
I think he's good probably where he's at. I think he's more well known than, say, like the Captain Spaulding House of 1,000 Corpses.
I'll go with that.
He gives Irish people a bad name, though.
Yeah.
oh my God. You look back at those original films, you're just like, I don't know if this would fly today, guys.
All right. Well, the funny thing is we got 2 left, and we're not going to. One's going to have 6 because that's all we got.
I have an argument for that. Make S tier have 6. Put freaking Ghostface up there, and then we'll
This is exactly like McFoley.
It is
It's the
McFoley.
exact same.
I'm not going to let anyone.
Just because Mick Foley said the name of y'all's YouTube channel.
That's the funniest thing is I wasn't the one arguing against it. It was
You want to go make Ghostface do a cameo of
Can we?
Call to Action or whatever it was
Well,
called.
that would be a lot easier.
Yeah, because really anybody with a mask and
Nothing fair. All right.
Technically,
Well,
probably save some money on that.
let's see where we would place him, and then we'll decide the actual overall listing soon. So, how about Dracula as a character? Now, this is another interesting one. The Universal Monsters. Where's Frankenstein? He's still up there. At that.
Yeah, Dracula has to be up there with Frankenstein.
yeah.
Basically, they're right in there. They're pretty much same tier.
Only in so much that, like, what before Bela Lugosi's Dracula, you had like what Nosferatu was like the original like vampire movie essentially. And then from then on, I mean, that was what started vampire movies. We wouldn't have the Twilight.
We
movies
wouldn't
if there
have
wasn't for
Twilight
those.
with that.
Okay,
So
drop
that
it
goes
back
in
down.
Drop him down. D tier at this point, then.
We also wouldn't have Interview with the Vampire. That would-
But then
Still
without
not
that,
helping.
we would never have.
Love that. All right, I will. I think Dracula's definitely higher than Frankenstein's monster. I think Dracula's had more successful movies. You have the Gary Oldman as Dracula, even the Jerry B as Dracula movie was actually not that bad. I actually liked it a little bit.
Oh yeah, Dracula 2000
It was something fun about it, right?
with vitamin C.
Right?
Well, what about the Christopher Lee film in the 70s?
Christopher Lee from the 70s as well. Absolutely, 110%. It always seems like they're trying to reboot it. It's never one that's been far from out of the mind of conscious. I mean, Frankenstein, you don't try to remake very often. I feel like it's not as much. Dracula's always in the context. Even if it's not Dracula, it's a vampire film. It's more than just Dracula. It's an entire vampire thing that goes back to Dracula.
It's also Blade Trinity, where he was called Drake.
That's true.
Bring that memory back.
Why'd you say that, Robert?
It was a great Deadpool movie.
I would actually have to put him pretty high. I think I'd have to put him up here somewhere.
I agree with Chucky's a little higher up for me, but I would agree he's a little more higher than Pazuzu.
Okay, I'm comfortable with him there. I think.
Yeah.
Need to start bumping them down though.
I do. I mean, it's Saw annual
Manny, Spaulding.
All right.
Well, we're
Which
pretty
means
full
we're
there.
down to our last one of this list. The Shining.
Act
You can also include Dr. Sleep.
Well, if you're gonna say it like that,
you not like Dr. Sleep?
I did not like Dr. Sleep. But here's the thing: in all fairness, I didn't like Kubrick's The Shining when I first saw it either. It was one of those that took multiple times watching it, and I was like, okay, this is a good movie. I get that the whole thing is supposed to be psychological. There's a lot of people who don't like Kubrick. The thing, I like Kubrick, I just didn't like The Shining.
Oh, okay.
You know what? It's okay. Stephen King didn't like Kubrick either.
That's very true.
He still doesn't. At least I liked it upon rewatch.
I will say I kind of lied before, but now that I think about it, I said Friday Nightmare on Elm Street was my first horror movie. The Shining was my first horror movie. Right around the same time though. The Shining. So I know nostalgia plays a big part of it for me. This was the first movie that actually creeped me out. The whole Red Rum, the whole Freaky Twins thing. I love the books. I love the movies. I didn't even mind the crappy made-for-TV movie they made later on with the guy from Wings. It was okay, but
oh yeah,
Tim Daly. Was it Tim Daly? I think it was.
No, it was Steven Weber. Steven Weber.
That's
Yeah,
I always get them. I get those two guys confused.
Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. But I love Jack Torrance as well. This is Jack Nicholson's role. I don't think there's any. I think it's one of the more iconic. I would say there's an argument that he'd be an S tier.
No,
but I could see him being an A tier at least. I don't know what anybody thinks about that.
I would say. Oh man, you know what? Like for me, I think the iconic look of Jack Torrance is definitely a little higher than Pennywise. That's for sure. Because, I mean,
that's where I'd put it right there.
I would put it right there, and also he would also be an argument for me to be excluded because I think he is actually. I don't think he's the villain of The Shining. I think it's the Overlook that is the true villain.
Oh, I would agree there. But if you're talking about the franchise itself, then The Shining is a horror film franchise. I guess you're arguing now the Misery thing. I guess that's why I included Dr. Sleep, because then he can make it a franchise. But
you know what? But I'd be okay with him being right there, though.
All right. Okay.
Paul, you don't seem like you'd be okay with
that. I'm not. In terms of, because I know it's a nostalgia thing for me, but there's not many more iconic horror sequences than there is the Shining score from Kubrick. This particular sequence with Wendy, the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy typewriter sequence there. The twins. There's so many iconic moments about the movie and the spirits, the whole room, the naked old lady in the room, the ghost, the freaking weird masquerade sequences and ghosts, Jack the Butler. So much about these films. I'm not even talking about Dr.
Babadook.
Thank you, Chris Adams. Always welcome. So to me, like I said, I would argue S tier, but I know I'm not going to win that battle. But I gotta say, I think this is at the very least, in the A tier. Very least in the A tier.
I'm okay with it there if you move Ghostface up.
I say that. Move him up. Move him up.
For me, he's at the top of A tier.
Austin uses that?
Yeah.
I love you, Austin. This is my boy. Kelsey, you are being replaced, it looks like. Jesus Christ.
I'm okay with the top of A tier if you move Ghostface up.
I honestly would put him at least there. To be honest, he's more iconic than Scream is to me. I think Jack Torrance, The Shining, is more iconic. I want to, Andres, what do you think? Shining or Scream really is more iconic overall?
It's right down the middle for me because here's the thing. Again, like I said, crack in the wall, you automatically think of freaking Jack Nicholson's head coming through. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you get a phone call from somebody you don't know. That is universal. And the other thing too is just just even the iconic nature of what's your favorite scary movie. Even if you ask that in regular everyday parlance, you can't help but think of Scream.
Here's Johnny.
That too, and that's why I said it's tied. But honestly,
Red Rum.
wah, wah, wah. Oh man, that's tough. You know what? I guess. I mean, my personal preference would be to put him on the S tier, but I get if he stays where he is.
S tier for The Shining. Another vote for S tier for The Shining.
No, not S tier for The Shining. I'm talking about Scream.
You're fired, Andres. You're fired.
You ain't paying me.
Oh, gotta wait for Robert.
But Paul, I know my vote counts literally nothing.
No,
But
I've been hearing your phone.
to me, The Shining is B plus. Is the top of B. Because it is iconic, but it is not any more iconic than anything above it. And except for, to me, the chainsaw one, which honestly, that could just be me. But it's just, there's some iconic moments, but it's just not one of those things I think of when I think of horror movies.
Because it's a horror franchise list, I can knock it off. If we were just doing horror movies, it would definitively, I could not be swayed that it was an S tier movie. I will let it go as far down as A. I definitively could not put it below. I could not put Chucky above it overall. I really can't. I can't see it doing that at all. Because that film is so good, and Dr. Sleep is actually so good too, no matter what Robert says. But
all right, this is a tough one.
This is a very tough one. So, Robert, you think Scream over Shining for you, Robert?
I think Shining is more iconic. Scream is probably more personally connected to me because I like those movies the second I saw them. While again, Shining, it took me a couple of times to watch it. But overall, in general, I know Shining is a more beloved, more when you're talking about when you ask people to rank their favorite horror movies, typically it's like Exorcist, Shining, Alien, Jaws. All of those are within like the first foremost group. So I would still probably keep Shining in general over Ghostface, over Scream.
I think that's what we're about to say.
The chat doesn't agree with you, by the way. And Andres and I don't agree with you, by the way. So you have been outvoted, and you're just like ignoring.
Andres actually, I think Andres came around a little bit. He was kind of unsure at the end there.
See, but that's the thing is that we're arguing for this to be in. Like if you were going, oh well, you know what, drop it down to the B. I didn't necessarily agree with that. I would say it's definitely in the higher echelon. I mean the Shining franchise for sure. And what is with that pose that I just noticed with that pose, the Creature from the Black Lagoon is I don't know.
I'm a creature from the Black Lagoon. You must look upon me.
I love me.
Look on my schlong.
That's right. What? It's a schlong pose. They look at my schlong pose.
Like the look at.
This isn't a Guillermo del Toro Creature from the Black Lagoon. All right. This isn't like a.
It's just That's.
And Kelsey's swiping right.
I mean,
someone needs to make a video of like the clips of. I guess I could probably do this too, but the Creature from the Black Lagoon with like Borat's voice. Hello, I am the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Yakas mas. I like you.
I love it.
I like water. It's nice.
Like, it's very nice.
Very nice. Very nice.
In fact, any of these horror icons with Borat's voice would be fantastic.
No, getting way too silly. All right, Robert agrees with me. We'll finish this up. Robert agrees with me on The Shining being over Ghostface. Kelsey vehemently disagrees with me.
I disagree with you. Malcolm disagrees with you. Caleb, that was on here earlier, disagreed with you. There were so many people who were saying S tier for this when we were talking about Scream in the first place. And you ignored us all. Like, the
Very
masses have said S tier for Scream. This is Twilight all over again, where the chat is agreeing with me that it should not be D tier. Me and Alex was like, it should be low, but maybe not D tier.
Kelsey, you just shot yourself in the foot with that argument. Because everyone else
I was agreeing with Kelsey. Kelsey said that
I'm just saying that Paul picks and chooses who he agrees with for things.
I already tracked that. You just told me the chat picked Twilight. The chat was wrong then, so why aren't they wrong now?
This is a different chat. That was Ben and Drew's chat, so that's a very questionable audience. I trust your chat more.
Wow.
So my brother's doing the Babadook. Very nice.
Very nice.
I'm actually like I actually thought of like when we're sitting here talking about that Exorcist. I like spinning my head. I like masturbating with crucifix. Very nice. Like I like throwing up pea soup. Okay.
And also, Ferris says he will never agree with Kelsey in the private chat
because I hate Fast and Furious movies. That's the only reason why.
Oh my God, Kelsey, what is wrong with you?
I think she's right, actually.
So many things.
Kelsey, I'll agree with you on that.
Okay, glad we agree on something.
Although it's definitely better than Twilight.
It is. Okay. Well, okay. So
Fast and the Furious has the unique distinction of the fact that it jumped the shark and then kept going after that and got more successful.
Yeah.
You know, I had a discussion with one of my buddies who used to do script coverage over at Universal, and apparently he read one of the drafts of 7. And I was just like, what are they going to do after this? They're going to go out in space? And he's like, you know what? I've actually heard that being bandied about. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to happen.
Hey, if they get to space before 10, they'll beat Jason there.
There you go.
Ferris agrees with me about Ghostface in the chat. By the way, I feel like the
I don't see that. I don't know what you're talking about in that.
Picking and choosing what you see, Paul.
I don't see it. That's all good. Well, I think I got to end it like that. I think we're gonna end it like this. I don't know if Kelsey's gonna be mad at me.
I am gonna be mad at you this one. Okay, I gave you up on Twilight. I'm not letting this rest till Ghostface. I don't care if he's at the bottom of S tier, but he should be on S tier.
But come on, The Shining is one of the most classic horror films of all time.
And I saw it once, and I'm good. I've seen Scream probably 10 times in the last year. Like,
Ferris, are you good to come on? Convince me, Ferris. Convince me.
Yes.
Paul, we're talking about Ghostface is iconic.
All right, anyway, Ferris, go ahead.
You're a piece of work, Denizia. You know that? You're a piece of goddamn work.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, man. How can Ghostface not be S tier, bro?
Well, because first of all, Ghostface over any of those iconic on the top list there: Freddy, Michael, Jason, Norman Bates, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
He could be behind,
but he's with them. Yeah, he's literally with them.
But there's only 5 slots. I'm not opening up the slot like I did for wrestling.
But
5 for the list.
But that's the correct answer. He is an S tier villain.
No.
Yes, he is.
If there's already 5 S tiers already.
Time out. I was hopping in and back. What is the criterion here? Are we talking about the film or the franchise or the character?
All three.
It is that's right. You know what? Okay, let me really quickly. The tier list was a horror icons, but we're using this to determine the franchise because the franchises we had there was like 200 lists in the franchise, and we're like, we're not going to.
Ghostface is a horror icon, Paul.
Yeah, but we're not talking about. We are talking about the films themselves more than the icon. The films and the icon versus The Shining. Versus The Shining.
Scream and The Shining are literally both iconic, Paul.
Yeah. So which one is higher, Shining or Scream?
They're both like leveled out.
So, but you have to put one over the other.
There's some people that have never seen The Shining.
There's a lot of people who have not
leveled out tier on this thing.
We are.
I would personally put Scream over The Shining.
Okay, Ferris, you're gonna have to step up your argument skills here very soon.
For your schmo base.
Saying leveled out when you obviously have to rank something in a tier is not gonna fly.
It's still o'clock in the morning. Shut up, Adam.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I got another argument as to why Scream should be S tier. Let's ask Janine. What would she pick? She would absolutely make Scream an S tier.
I would
Oh, she
yes.
put it before Freddy.
Yes. Yes.
God, yeah.
And Drew Barrymore, Nev Campbell, Rose McGowan, the guy who plays Shaggy.
Matthew Lillard.
You're losing me here, Ferris. You're losing me here.
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
Matthew Lillard is in your film. It's not an S tier film.
Patricia,
Scooby-Doo
How
and
dare
Courtney
you.
Cox Arquette, Courtney Cox Arquette, David Arquette. They have all the Arquettes. All they needed was Patricia.
Former WCW champion David Arquette. I don't.
Former WCW champion David Arquette.
Right. I forgot he did that shit.
Oh man, guys.
What's called, and we can't forget Scream 2, freaking Jay Pinkett Smith and Sarah Michelle Gellar.
That is true as well. That is true.
You
The
also
thing is,
gotta
I'm
keep
not
in,
arguing. I'm not arguing it's not iconic. I'm just saying, comparatively speaking, if you talk about greatest horror films of all time, The Shining is on almost every list.
Yes.
Yeah.
So was Scream.
So was
It's
Scream.
not. No, it's not. I
No, it's
guarantee.
because it's your definition of horror. It's a horror parody,
Yeah.
but it's still a horror film.
Well, no, Scary Movie is a horror parody
A
of
horror
Scream.
comedy. Horror comedy? Can we go with horror comedy?
It kind of is, but if you're doing
Still a
that,
Scary Movie.
if you're doing that, we put in exclusions on here, like we did
But then
Little
again-
Shop of Horrors and stuff like that.
I think it's in the vein of like Chucky, where it's
Andres, go ahead.
funny, but it's yeah.
Paul, what you were also saying though, the other Shining, the one that just came out,
Dr. Sleep.
most of it, that's like garbage.
A lot of people don't like that, and if you're,
So-
you're counting it as a
and-
franchise,
See, and Paul,
That's also a negative.
Paul,
Scream
you said-
4,
you said
Scream
you're
3
talking about-
sucked my balls. So, to be honest with you, Scream 3 sucked my balls.
Paul,
Wait, how
So
did
did-
how did you get a movie to do that to your balls? Because I mean, I've been trying for years.
Paul.
Off street, I'll let you know.
So did the reboot to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which one?
Exactly.
You're gonna have to narrow that one down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Reboots that they
Thank
had.
you. Why is Texas Chainsaw Massacre over Ghostface?
Because Leatherface
Thank you.
is far more iconic than the costume.
Because
Ghostface is even one person. Oh,
one particular
Ferris.
movie.
One second. Ferris. Ghostface is like which Ghostface are you talking about? Who's wearing the mask today?
I thought we were talking about the original one.
No, we're talking about the franchise. Who's
Oh,
wearing the
well,
mask? It's not even one killer. It's you could buy anybody can buy this $20 suit in the
and that's why it's fucking
Jay-
terrifying. Because it could be
Jason-
anybody. Because
Exactly.
besides
That's
one
not
day we're
iconic.
gonna be
It's like the
Doesn't
horror
make it-
Spider-Man. Anyone can put on the mask.
But it doesn't make it iconic.
Are we also using like scared? Like this person would scare me?
Yes, to a degree.
Norman Bates don't scare me.
Are you kidding me?
as a single female, Norman Bates scares me.
Okay, it's good point. Good point.
I like
Good point.
Norman Bates in this.
Good
But
point.
honestly, I don't know. I don't
Some-
have my
some
argument.
of
I just
these-
went,
Jason's mom is more scary than Jason.
Some of these are also based on the weight of the
Where's
one
Jason's mom?
movie.
Yeah.
Say, for example, The Shining is a massively huge horror iconic movie. While, like, say, like, I don't know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, only like the first two and maybe the 2003 remake were decent, and the rest of them are all crap. So, I mean, the basis of The Shining, even though Dr. Sleep, give or take people's opinions, The Shining was huge. Dr. Sleep, maybe not so much, but the weight of just The Shining by itself probably far outweighs all these Scream movies put together as of right now.
Well, man, that's like your opinion, man. Like
Oh,
it's
well-
just like your opinion, bro.
But it's also a matter of look at the longevity of the franchise. There's still people nowadays that have seen both Shining and Scream and will still say The Shining is the more iconic horror movie. Some of us, depending on what your age is, might connect with Scream more because that was more for a lot of our ages, the MTV generation. That's what spoke to us. We didn't watch The Shining until we become like actual adults. So therefore we might not connect to it as well.
so
Shout out to Nev Campbell.
people in my age generation's opinion means less because we weren't around when The Shining was like, because that's I feel like the argument right now.
Yeah, but that argument is like if you were a high schooler in the 1960s, you probably would rank Psycho a lot higher than say Freddy Krueger because that's too new for you.
Hey,
I mean, same kind of thing. It's the same reason why some of these, like even newer ones, what would we say, like Babadook? Babadook is extremely popular, but it's lower down on the list just because the movies before it are more popular. They're more well known.
Thank you, Chris.
Wait, time out.
Where's you live by?
Who's the Jai Courtney looking clown?
The Art the Clown.
No,
Yeah,
I think
No, he's talking about 1,000.
There's
Yeah.
a bunch of clowns on here. Which
there's
one
a
are you
lot of
talking about?
clowns.
D. Second.
Captain Spaulding.
Captain Spaulding.
House of 1,000 Corpses, Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
Why does he look like Jai Courtney?
I don't know, but
Is that Jai Courtney?
no, it's not.
Hey, Sid Haig.
Oh,
He was like a lot older than Jai Courtney is. I'll tell you that.
And a better actor too.
Yeah, very true.
no, it's probably.
All right. I will.
Don't do it, PLD.
Do it.
I think a lot of the argument with Ghostface is your own personal connection to it. You might not necessarily be looking at it from a very broad horror movie standpoint, which I agree. I mean, I grew up with Scream was actually the first horror movie I saw in a movie theater, and even so, I was watching it like this because I can't see shit over my glasses. So that's how I watched horror movies before I grew a pair and was able to watch them perfectly fine. But yeah, I mean, I have that personal connection with Scream too, but as a horror movie aficionado, yeah, The Shining definitely is a more iconic horror movie than the Scream franchise.
Agreed. I agree with that entire aspect of it.
I think The Shining also the thing it has for us is that it's a Stephen King adaptation. It has Kubrick behind it. Got Jack Nicholson. In Scream, it was a bunch of rando teen actors that you didn't know except David Arquette.
Oh, it had Wes Craven behind.
Well, I mean, you're gonna call out the people behind the movie. You had Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but did anyone know the
9-year-old me didn't know that.
Yeah, 9-year-old Kelsey didn't know that. She didn't know who the fuck
Well,
Wes
if you were
Craven was.
9 years old when The Shining came out, you wouldn't have known it was Kubrick.
I
and
wouldn't have liked that
Stephen
movie.
King either. Yeah,
I love that movie at 9 years old. That's what I thought.
Because you're a fucking weirdo, Paul.
You're calling me a weirdo.
Yeah, I am too.
So we're talking about
a weirdo knows the weirdo.
Nobody dresses as Jack for Halloween.
because
Thousands of people.
It's not a
That's what
costume.
I'm saying. Like, how is there's
Alright, so
nothing that like.
Hold on, Kelsey. You're arguing Norman Bates because the everyday character that anybody can be, and yet you're now saying that doesn't work for Jack Torrance.
You can dress up as Norman Bates. You just got to put on a dress and a wig. But then,
I was gonna say that.
2020 people are doing that anyways.
That's true.
To a lot of Halloween parties, and I can't begin to count how many times I've seen Jack Torrance at these, because what you can do is brown coat, jeans, the axe. And you automatically get it. And that's what I mean. Granted, I know a lot of people. I mean, this is all news to me now that a lot of people are like Dr. Sleep. I love Dr. Sleep.
I love Dr. Sleep too, Andres.
I liked Dr. Sleep.
But I don't know. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even like horror.
Because you were my hype man, and you were helping my argument.
You're a horse.
I said the same thing 3 hours ago, Ferris.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Hobbs got it right. We're actually going to redo the whole list. We're going to start from the beginning, just going by costumes. No, not really.
But I just like that. Like we talked about that earlier with like Frankenstein's monster and Dracula and things like that. Like it's so much in like. I completely disagree with the argument that The Shining is more iconic to the masses than Ghostface and Scream is. Now, to the film community and people who have that, like, then yeah, I agree, Shining maybe. But to the masses, to my parents, to my grandma, to my uncle, to the kid on down the street, to like my teachers, Ghostface is more iconic.
I want you to ask your father. Ask your father. You just said your.
Oh, I will. He didn't like The Shining. He didn't like Scream either, but he would probably agree. Because it was too violent. My dad doesn't like violence.
Kelsey, you admit that second part. You admit that. You say the first part and you'll say the second part.
But he would agree with me that Ghostface is more iconic and Scream is more iconic because of my dad would agree.
Kelsey would not make a good politician.
I'm not gonna admit
He hates The Shining. He also hates Scream.
Well,
back to square one.
But that's not the argument whether he likes it per se. But he would agree with me. My mom would agree with me. I feel that the more common film viewing audience would agree with me.
And I agree with Kelsey's mother.
As you should.
Yes. I've never met this woman. I've never met this woman, but I agree.
I hope that's your answer for everything when I play you on Schmobates Fair.
I agree with Kelsey's mom.
I agree with Kelsey's mother.
And you will win. You'll win my vote instantly.
All right, guys.
Yeah, I might lose that one actually.
I'm going to put a halt to the proceedings. And Kelsey, I love you.
Yeah, I lose every argument. You guys gained up on me during the franchise argument too, even though the chat agreed with me. Not just about other things we talked about too. The chat agreed with me. And you're like, I don't agree with Kelsey's opinion, so I'm going to admit it. And me and Danielle are going to just do our thing. And then the chat will be like, no, Kelsey's right. Kelsey's right. And you're like, but me and Danielle think this, so we're going to go this way.
Wait, Tama, what was Kelsey's thing on the franchises? Did you like Twilight or do you hate Twilight?
She loves Twilight.
I don't love Twilight. I think we're talking about the importance of the franchise. And as a girl who was like 16, 17 at the time when it came out.
It was big.
It was big. So therefore, I feel like low C tier made sense for me. And it got
like your best franchises of all time.
Oh, if it was best franchise of all time, no way.
Best franchise of all time.
But you should have seen. We're talking about it was like up there with like Madagascar and all these other movies that I just.
And that's exactly where it should be.
Thanks,
at one point,
but movies like that were put above it.
Austin, do you want to dab on CCY?
So, at one point, for like 2 years, 3 years, Twilight, like the Twilight Saga and Harry Potter were like right here in terms of like pop culture, like importance.
Yeah.
The difference is that Harry Potter like lasted.
Yeah, well, Harry Potter was like B tier in our thing. I was asking for low C, and I was asking for just low C for Twilight. I wasn't asking for it to be really high up. It was like low D.
That's where it should be.
It's not where it should be. You should have seen the other franchises on the list.
Yeah, honestly, Austin, that list was a piece of shit anyway.
It was a piece of shit list because I don't think a single franchise was where I thought it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, where was
I lost
Star
every
Wars?
argument.
Star Wars number 1, I think, wasn't it?
Where the fuck do you think Star Wars was?
Jeremiah,
on a Paul Denuzio list. Where the hell do you think it was?
It better have been there, otherwise I would have probably killed Paul. Okay.
Was it number 1 or was Lord of the Rings number 1? I don't remember.
No, I think it was Star Wars.
Was it Star Wars?
Star Wars number 1, yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars guy.
There was an argument for a while of Lord of the Rings.
We're not sure, Paul. Check the wall behind you because I think it's written on there.
Yeah, because Paul's opinions are the ones that matter.
Thank you, Kelsey, for finally admitting it. It's
I'm saying that very angrily and frustratedly.
Kelsey, that's your issue. Don't listen to Paul. I stopped listening to Paul since the day I met him.
Did you ever start listening to me?
No.
Okay, good call.
No.
All right, guys, that's what we're gonna end. I think we're gonna end it.
I thought I was talking to Ben or Andrew in my DMs on Patreon, and I found out it was fucking Paul. I was like, yeah, news deal? Jeez.
There's been a couple people who have thought that, I know where it's coming as was, but well, there is our list, folks. Kelsey, I'm sorry. I do apologize.
Okay, but we need to settle this. So that's not Jai Courtney?
That's not Jai Courtney.
Okay.
We're waiting for Ferris to come in and just say this whole list sucks, and he comes in with, is that Jai Courtney? We thought we were going to have to redo this entire 3-hour long episode just because of your opinion. And no, we're just getting is that Jai Courtney.
No, take a second. Go ahead.
I don't really know horror, so this wasn't gonna be like the wrestling list where me and Paul argued for an extra hour. It's like it wasn't gonna happen. I was gonna be like, let me just talk some shit, and then let me just hop on. That's it.
All right. Kelsey, I do apologize. I feel bad that you feel bad.
My bad. I cut off Austin. Sorry, Austin.
Oh, you're good.
Apologize to me.
It's not just me. It's not just me. The panel as a whole. Overall.
No, the panel as a whole went the other way. You're the one that decided to do that.
Robert and Andreas both said Shining over Scream.
But that's not their opinion,
and Austin did too. That's 4. 4 out of the 4. That's a majority of the screen.
I am bigger than all the rest of you. Okay, so
but it was
comes with me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jeremiah counts as 2 people.
Yeah.
So 1.
Hashtag Ben's boy.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Ben's boy. So
Ow.
So sorry.
I
So-
hate you all.
Is this the time to? Should I apologize to Jeremiah?
Yes.
No. No.
No, not yet.
You're the idiot that keeps on donating like $50 every time and making it.
Yo, what did y'all see like Ben's face? Like the way he says boy, he's like boy. Ben's boy.
Like Flavor Flav or something like this. Like,
Yes.
yes, yeah, boy.
Yeah, boy.
No.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
All right.
He was so goddamn white when he said it too. He was like Ben's boy. Like no, stop.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming on board and having this much fun with us and wrestling and fighting. And Kelsey's she'll get over it. She'll get over it.
Will I?
Yeah, I think
Will
you
I?
will. Not till I'll give you like 6 or 7 hours and I'll talk to you again.
I'm muting you, Paul.
I love how Paul's like, yeah, she'll be mad for like 6 hours, then we can talk. It's all right.
All right.
Called
doesn't matter.
sleeping.
Are we doing another one of these tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night?
Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Okay. Who do you think is going to be AJ tomorrow night?
Always have somebody, right? Always have somebody. All right. Well,
The
first-
difference is AJ won, so
that's true. Eventually. Wow.
No, you won for AJ.
yeah, I won for AJ.
And actually, the thing is, he didn't even win. It's just that I cheated and I relented and added more to the S tier. That's all I did.
So we won.
Oh, so when you want to add more to the S tier to fit your purposes, you will, but not.
Well, because there was four people that I considered S tier as of the A tier at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to add this here just for one film.
Mm-hmm.
You're a piece of shit, Denizio.
Paul, at the next live event, if you see Ghostface, run. Run.
I'll punch that motherfucker in the face because he don't scare me. Because
Thanks,
most likely under that Ghostface mask is somebody like a Brad Gilmore, and I can take Brad Gilmore out no problem. You know.
What I like is Jeremiah was saying is if you see him run because you don't know who's under the mask, and then you're like, I'll just punch him. I'm willing to bet no matter what, it's Ferris under the mask.
I like my chances. Let's put it that way. I like my chances.
Yeah, against Brad Gilmore. Yeah, against me.
I like my chances either way.
I wouldn't be worried about who's wearing the mask. I'd be worried about how many are wearing the mask.
That's true. There you go. I'll give you
Yeah,
that.
there's just gonna be a mob of Ghostface coming after Paul at the next live event.
Don't give it away. That's
All the
end of
Kelsey supporters
That's
are
the
going
end
to.
of Scream 5 is an entire room of people wearing the ghost face, and they're all the killers.
I'm the only one left in the audience.
So should I add Halloween onto the list?
Yeah. Oh, have you not seen Halloween?
Nope.
Oh, yes.
78.
78.
Yeah.
Yep.
Watch the original Halloween.
Come back on Halloween night on the Cinefanatics channel. We're doing a live watch along.
There
I
you
feel
go.
like I'm jumping the gun on the plugs here, but I mean, he just brought it up.
Robert, where can the folks find you and plug what you want to plug? Go ahead.
Oh, I'm on the Cinefanatics channel. That's youtube.com/Cinefanatics.
Since you asked.
Yeah, I mean, nice segue there. We do the reactions to the Schmoedowns called the Schmoedown Replay. We have our one this coming up this what?
What's Schmoedown?
Schmoedown. I'm tired. It's after 4:20. Huh. Go figure. Anyways, we have the Schmoedown Replay going on this week with Jeff Snyder versus Adam Collins. So that's going to be a lot of fun. This Saturday, we are doing on our Patreon, patreon.com/Cinefanatics. Yeah, Andres already knows where I'm going with this. Me and Andres will be doing the watch along for The Evil Dead, the original 1981, which was conspicuously not on the list tonight. He will not be watching it, but me and Andres will. It's fantastic. $5 on up on the Patreon tier. And then at the end of this month on Halloween night, we're doing a live watch along of Halloween. So if you haven't seen it, Ferris, come join us on our channel for that.
Perfect, my friend. Perfect.
And then we all close with our theme tonight. There's some horror in this house. There's some horror.
Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. Ferris, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on the Let's Get Ready to Talk Schmoedown channel every Friday and various interviews throughout the week. So, well, it's Sunday. We do ours on Sunday. This Wednesday, I'll be on Schmobates with the lovely Alex McFarlane, Shawshank, McFarlane, whatever last name she's going by.
Alex Shawshank.
Alex Shawshank. I will be going against the man.
Yeah, I do that too.
Up and to the right of me, Robert Adams.
Speaking, did you see his promo, by the way?
What promo?
I can actually do this. Give me a
he got a promo on me.
Something for me on call to also. Oh wow, we're on call to action. I don't know what happened. Let's see if I have this here somewhere. Yeah, so there.
Hey Ferris, you think you could take on one of the OGs on Schmodown Reactions on a Schmodown debate? Let's see. Let's check this out on Wednesday. Come on, bring it.
I mean, I wasn't expecting you to answer right now, so I was expecting you on Wednesday. So this just became awkward city, but I mean, if you would like to respond right now, I mean, if you'd like.
Your response, Ferris. Your response to that. Wow, that's actually a good response. I gotta say, actually a perfect response. Actually,
You just took his breath away.
Oh my god, he actually thinks he has a chance.
wow,
He's laughing because he thinks he does.
This seems like the most simplistic response like ever. That is what anyone would respond with if you were talking shit about.
It's gonna be a fun time. I don't really care if it wins, honestly.
As someone who argues with this person almost nightly, good luck.
All right, Jerry, where can the folks find you?
You can find. Well, this is the only place I ever am, so find me here next time there's Star Wars talk.
All right, you can put your social media. You got your Twitter handle or anything?
I don't know my Twitter handle. Follow Paul, and then I'll be somewhere on that list. Look for like Jeremiah Morris. Okay, somewhere there.
Or Ben's boy.
Paul follows like 5 Jeremiah Morrises.
All right. Austin, my friend, where can the folks find you?
Apparently, I'm the new right-hand man to PLD projects. I also have a YouTube channel called AG Disc Golf with my friend George. We do disc golf content if you're interested in that. I'm in the generals chat, and I'm on Twitter as Austin_Cadell.
Sweet. All right. My friend Andres, the ghost. You got to go tell me all about it.
Well, you can find me on Twitch at Gallagher209. I've taken a little bit of a break, but I'm coming back full force. I just need to sort some things out, and I got a brand new setup entirely, so coming back with that at some point this week for sure. But you can also catch me doing video retrospectives on older underrated films for the Underrated franchise for my buddy Steve Cravens. He's a part of the High Voltage media channel. So check out those videos. We've actually done a couple of them so far. We just did a Batman Returns retrospective that got a really great response. And what we're having coming up next, we're actually discussing the Friday the 13th remake very soon.
Okay.
And how that is underrated to us. And I personally really love that film. So there you go.
I will say real quick, I hated that film when I first saw it, and I watched it again. I was like, this actually is not that bad. So
yeah,
I'm interested to watch that.
Hey, Andre, what are you doing on Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, on this Saturday. Oh, man. I'm actually watching Evil Dead with the Cinefanatics this upcoming Saturday as well, too.
Or at least half of the Cinefanatics.
Yeah, the cinema. just the cinema.
Although I do have my fingers crossed if I can join them for the Halloween episode.
Oh, there you go. We're having a discussion on air. Negotiations on air. All right.
We'll talk about that later.
All right. Kelsey, my dear. Where can the folks find?
Oh, whatever.
You can find me at KelseyKins90 on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also on Call to Action. You can see me there. And you might see me on Twitch. I might do some movie watch-alongs and some games and things. I haven't really decided. My internet sucks, so I'm limited on my options, but check me out there. Oh, Kelsey Ken's Gamer is where I'm on.
Paul, she just flipped you off.
Yeah, she did, and that's okay. Unfortunately, she didn't give you enough to plug, so I couldn't find a Jack Torrance one to show you. But that's okay.
You don't need to find a Jack Torrance one. We already know that it's more superior.
That's true. That's very true. All right. Well, you can find me here. Usually, I'm going to try to do this more often. It's actually been a lot of fun. Watching alongs on V. I do not watch alongs. I do a watch through of V. Been recording that. Also, find me on Call to Action with Kelsey and a bunch of other people. The movie Trivia Schmodown tomorrow night. We are interviewing Josh McCouga on Chill to Action. That should be a very fun one. A lot of fun there. Got a lot of stuff I'm talking about. God, my episode of Class Action will be debuting tomorrow on Action Industries at 11:30 Pacific. I'm actually recording that in about 2 hours' time, so it's gonna be. I might be a little tired during that one, so it'll be interesting to see how I can get some coffee in me, and we'll make it work. And then finally, I also produce for Ben and Drew on most of the Action Industry stuff, and as well for coming up next with Brad and Jenna on the SCN.
John Roca.
I am John Roca again. I'm starting to be John Roca, where I just have so many freaking shows. I want to push. I'll shut up now. I love you guys all. Thank you so much for everything. I really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me and
hey, Paul.
the show. Yeah.
Kelsey's literally ghosting you right now.
She literally is ghosting me. I love it. I'll take that. Kelsey, you still there?
Well played.
She's in the house. She's in the house. Okay, she's in this. All right. She's in the house.
I'm here.
All right. Yes, Stardew. That's true. It is. It's going to be today. I couldn't record it because of Jarvie having conflicts earlier. So we're going to record it with Maddie Gunner as guest, making a guest appearance. So with that being said,
still waiting on my invite, Paul.
Yeah. You are. You're still waiting. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys.